Are y'all ready? Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for coming out early. We know our meeting started at 5 o'clock, but I will be doing a presentation to the Asian American and Pacific Islander Heritage Month. The City of Killeen, whereas Asian Americans and Pacific Islander Heritage Month is a time to celebrate and pay tribute to the contributions of the Asians, Pacific Americans in U.S. history. And whereas President Jimmy Carter signed the bill recognizing Asian Pacific American Heritage Week in 1978, which later became Asian Pacific Heritage Month in 1990. And whereas local performers, arts, culture, and traditions, PASFESTA, began in 2007 in a nonprofit entertainment group performing dance from the Pacific Islands and has performed at Central Texas events, including Celebrate Killeen. And whereas ACT Pacifica hosts the Central Texas Asian Pacific Festival for Asian Pacific Americans Heritage Month to showcase the cross-cultural connections and share the island's heritage with the community through culture, arts, foods, and performance. Now, therefore, I, Debbie Nash King, by the virtue of authority vested in me as the mayor of City of Killeen, do hereby proclaim May 2023 as Asian American Pacific Islander Heritage Month. Congratulations.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. And on behalf of ACT Pacifica, we would like to say thank you for accepting our culture and sharing with us. Thank you.
Thank you so much. We will begin our council meeting at 5.
You got that? Can you imagine that every other part of it sounds so good? More than what I wanted to, $2,000.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to tonight's City Council workshop. We will start off with a presentation. Madam Secretary.
PR 23007, Community Health Plan Presentation by Delcina West, Advent Health, Central Texas.
Thank you. Ms. West and Mr. Roberts, please come up. Thank you all for accepting my invite to come tonight to discuss what's going on at Advent Health and the resources you can provide for our community. Thank you. The mic is yours.
All right, it's working. Good evening. It's a privilege and an honor to be here to share with you tonight some great work that Delcina West and a committee of community stakeholders have put together to identify and plan for the health needs of Killeen. Now, Acute Care Hospitals is part of our of our governance structure and regulatory structure are required to do what we call a community health needs assessment. It's every 2 years or every 3 years. And this is a really deep data dive where you actually look at all kinds of demographic and healthcare data, disease prevalence data, to figure out what are the greatest needs and the greatest gaps for an entire community. So we have done that, and Delcina has led that. She is our manager for community and employee wellness. So she is going to share those results with you this evening. And at the end, you're going to hear about not only our hospital, because it takes a village, it takes a community to get things done. She's going to talk about other stakeholders that are already in the fight against sickness and that are going to help build wellness. And we're hoping that as our elected leaders and our county officials and our city manager, Mr. Cagle, that you all are will find a way to help invest in the community's wellness as well as a result of this excellent data that Delcina is going to present. So
Thank you, sir. And
That's
I
all I
just
have.
want to make a note that he is the CEO of Advent Health.
yes, ma'am.
Thank you,
Thank
sir.
you.
Good afternoon, council members, Madam Mayor. Thank you for having us and giving us the opportunity to give you the information that we have been working on at Advent Health, actually for many, many years. But this time we want to try to get as much buy-in from our communities. As you all know, when we work together as a group, we can accomplish a lot more. And so by giving you this opportunity to see what we are doing, perhaps you can get excited about it and we can see how we can work in tandem. Now, first, let me just tell you a little bit about Advent Health, because many people may or may not know. But Advent Health and Rawlinsbrook are part of Advent Health together. We have a sacred mission to extend the healing ministry of Christ, and we strive to heal and restore the body, mind, and spirit through our connected systems. We have over 80,000 skilled medical professionals, and we serve 4.7 million patients a year. We have physicians, hospitals, outpatient, skilled nursing facilities, healthcare agencies, and we have nearly 50 hospitals around the country. We are committed to your care today, tomorrow, and with new technologies and the people behind them, we want to redefine medicine and create healthier communities. Now, as our CEO, Kevin, mentioned to you, we conducted this joint community health needs assessment and completed it in 2022. From that health needs assessment, we came up with a plan of how we can implement this. Now, in order to assure a broader community input, and we have a presentation that I need to start. There we are. In order to ensure broader community input, we created a committee, and the committee and the hospital, through this assessment process, we are representing the hospitals, public health experts, and the broader community. Now, this included intentional representation from low-income, minority, and underserved populations. The prioritization process sought to balance our ability to impact the greatest number of people who are facing the greatest disparities. And we understand that there are very many disparities within our cities, but we want to be able to focus on a few priorities that we can feel that we can have an impact on today and possibly throughout in the future. There were 3 priorities that we settled upon as a committee in the hospital and our community members. One was nutrition and healthy eating. The other is mental health, and the third is preventive health screenings. Now, I'm going to explain to you a little bit about our findings and what our plan is in brief for mental health and preventative health screenings, and then I will expound a little bit more on our nutrition and healthy program, because there's a pilot program that we're initiating, and we're looking for your input. In mental health, the hospital's community public data show that 21.6% of residents have a prevalence of depression, while 17% of the residents report poor mental health. According to our community survey respondents, 15.5% have been diagnosed with a depressive order, and more than 26% have been diagnosed with an anxiety disorder. And only 25% of the community and public health experts surveyed believe that the community is good at treating mental health. This is our goal. We want to increase mental health services for our youth and reduce stigma through education. And by the end of year 3, we provide health screenings to at least 180 students and provide referrals for resources identified. The student age group is 12 to 18. Now, we decided to focus on our young adults or young people because, as you know, if we start training, implementing, and educating at a younger age, it can influence not only them, their families, and our population. And this program has actually been a pilot program that started about a year ago. And the program basically is set up in 3 schools currently in the Killeen ISD. We have Killeen Elementary School, we have Palo Alto School, and we have Gateway School. Within those organizations, we have established one social worker. The social worker is responsible for educating the teachers, monitoring the students, and then helping any students that may need additional help, and then later on, if necessary, provide counseling. Now, currently, as a pilot program, we have one counselor in each school, and each counselor can take a max load of 20 students per year. And that's why our numbers say an objective of at least 180 students in 3 years. However, there is an opportunity for those counselors to use the help of graduate mental health students who can come into the schools to help to alleviate and disperse their ability and skills, but they will have to be able to have a preceptor who can sign off on their work and oversee them for those purposes. Our next target Our next target is preventive health screenings. Now, we have already been doing a great job at this. Advent Health being a medical facilities, this is almost second to none of what we do. We basically want to address the community and make them aware of regular health screenings. Public data shows that less than 25% of our community seniors are up to date on necessary core preventive services. And as you know, preventive care can improve your health outcomes. Oftentimes, we have silent killers such as high blood pressure, and many people walk around with those symptoms not knowing. And by a simple blood pressure test, it can alert them to what's going on in their body and perhaps give them the opportunity to seek medical care or try to use care services within their own capabilities. Our goal for this preventive health screenings is to provide screenings to raise awareness, indicators that can be addressed to prevent decreased likelihood of disease. And what we do at some of these screenings, we test for glucose, triglycerides, blood pressure, body fat, BMIs, and we also check for cholesterol. And very surprisingly, many of the people that come through, particularly the elderly, are not aware of their current health situations just by those simple preventative status. And our target population are minority men and women over the age of 18. Now, as we go into nutrition and healthy eating, more than 40% of our community survey respondents reported eating fruits and vegetables less than 2 days a week. Nutrition is known to be a critical influencer of health. Healthier eating improves maternal health, health at every stage of life, and it builds stronger immune systems and lowers the risk of chronic diseases like diabetes, cardiovascular disease, and longevity. I'm going to pull up a list just so that I can make sure that I don't miss anyone. As you know, healthy eating, most of us understand that you should eat more fruits and vegetables, but oftentimes we don't. And especially if you don't have the skills in order to do that, it becomes a problem. Imagine some of you, or many of you, have gone into your cupboard or to your refrigerator, maybe your spouse or maybe your children, and you saw a few things in there and you realized and you said, there's nothing to eat. Well, that happens with me quite often with my husband. And since I have culinary skills, I know how to prepare foods, I know how to create menus, I know how to use tools in the kitchen, I can go into that refrigerator of old vegetables and cheese and come up with a quiche or an egg frittata, which is simply eggs whipped up with all your old vegetables, potatoes, and baked. A delicious and healthy meal. But if you don't know that, you'll go into your refrigerator and your cupboard and you'll say you have nothing to eat. Well, our nutrition and healthy eating plan, our goal is to improve health by promoting healthy eating, access to whole foods, and food preparation skills. And by the end of the year 3, at least 100 families will have attended our nutrition education classes and receive access to more whole foods. Now, in the city of Killeen, we have several organizations that provide food to our communities. We have the Killeen Food Service Center. One moment as I get my notes here. Thank you. I tend to go very fast, and I'm trying not to. Okay. Okay, so I will defer. We have the Killeen Food Service Center, we have Phantom Warrior Center, we have Refugee Food Truck, we have several churches that give out staples, we have Killeen ISD schools that give out backpacks at the end of the day for children to have food to eat. And we have several organizations besides those who provide non-perishable foods. But one of the objectives for this program is to help and train our population on what to do with perishable foods. For example, we have an organization just down the street called Phantom Warrior Support, and they provide mostly whole foods. I don't know if many of you are familiar with it. Anyone here? So they provide whole foods, and they have a menu of what they provide. Things like potatoes, carrots, corn, pepper, onions, fruits, vegetables, and breads. Oftentimes, if a family doesn't know what to do with these things, they go wasted, and we even do it in our own homes. They get spoiled, and we don't use them. So with our pilot program, we want to include several organizations to help us to teach our families how to prepare foods, how to create menus, and how to feed their families affordably and with skills. Now, here's a list of some of the communities that provide foods on a weekly basis. So anyone in Killeen can practically go every day of the week and get some free food. Most of it is non-perishable, which is okay because when you got to eat, you have to eat. But if we could teach our families to eat healthier, then we could affect their health now and for the future. Our community participants that are helping us to make these decisions now are the Killeen Food Care Center, Operation Phantom Support, Killeen ISD, Greater Killeen Community Clinic, Cove House, Texas A&M Agricultural Center, the Area Agency on Aging of Central Texas College, and Let's Eat Texas. We have been coming together to come up with a plan that could help address this particular issue. And most agree that skills in the kitchen are a valuable tool. Imagine a mother being able to create a healthy, affordable meal for her family by knowing recipes on what to do with a crock pot. Crock pot meals, as many of you know, are affordable and healthy, but oftentimes we may not know exactly what to do with that. Our pilot program is set to be as such. We want to do this for about 60 to 90 days, and our team is going to be meeting in 2 weeks to narrow down our objectives. We want to sign up 10 to 20 families. The families are going to be representative from the low-income communities or from our various participants, the military, the aged community, our young people from school, and those in food deserts. We want to do a basic biometrics exam. So basically their height, weight, cholesterol, BMI, and get a baseline assessment of where they are. They're going to be sent to places where they can get whole foods. And of course, they'll have the option to get perishable foods, non-perishable foods. And we have support from the Operation Phantom Support, the Refuge Mobile Food Truck, and the Killeen Food Care Center. What they will do is sign up families who will voluntarily want to participate in this program. We have a chef in our area. As a matter of fact, she's across the street. Josie from Let's Eat Texas is a well-known chef. She came from Alaska, and she used to teach classes to communities on how to prepare foods and how to maximize their dollars. A simple thing we're going to do is get, for example, the foods that are going to be given out, let's say at Phantom Warrior Support at the beginning of the week. She will make a menu with those items and prepare meal cards, menus, And the families will be able to come to do a demonstration at the end of the week. The family will leave with menus. They will leave with the exact idea of what to do with those foods, and they will have skills in order to prepare them. We want to provide incentives for the families to stay and apply for the program. There could be things like gift cards to the supermarkets, small appliances that can be used. Simple things like measuring cups can make a big difference, or knives. Families, we don't know exactly what they do or do not have, but we want to be able to provide some of those things to help them to learn these skills. Halfway through the program, we're going to do a biometrics again, and we're looking for any type of changes because we'll do a small survey. We want to find out how many more fruits and vegetables are families eating on a regular basis? How many more cooked meals from home are they having? Are they saving any money as opposed to going to McDonald's and getting a Happy Meal for $4? Today, that's almost $30. With $30 in Whole Foods, you can practically make a meal for your family every night if you know what to do with it. And then we're going to get a better understanding of their experience through the process, conducting interviews and seeing if they've learned something and if this has been beneficial for them. If this program works at the end, what we want to do is make this available on a larger scale. What we want to do is be able to videotape this and have these presentations from the various food banks with the foods that they provide available to the wider audience. They will be able to see it on YouTube or Facebook. And then with our wellness center that we're going to be building, they'll be able to have a larger facility to come and gain these skills. The vision for this program is to teach families how to make better use of available resources for healthier whole foods, provide them with tools, techniques for preparation, and menu planning. In addition, this will empower families to provide healthier foods for themselves, which will impact their health and the well-being of their generations to come. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. That was very informative. But we do have some questions. The program, how do the city of Killeen, how can we help?
The city of Killeen can help us with, first, making this widely known for the cities. We will have a form that identifies what the criteria is for qualification, because we don't want people to take advantage of it that don't necessarily need this. We also could use incentives to help the families stay with the programs. As you know, everyone likes to get a little something to get them to keep going. We want to encourage them to eat healthier foods. We want to encourage them to use better tools in their kitchens. So we want to look for things like that. And of course, we want to be able to support them and know that there are resources available later on. Texas Agriculture, for example, they have these types of outreach, but it's not widely known. We have other resources in the communities that are not necessarily being used. And so by pulling all of these resources together, and of course it's not an entire list, but showing how working together we can accomplish more when this program works, and I'm pretty sure it will. Because once you have skills to do something, you feel so much more empowered. Then we want to be able to spread this to make it a larger, impactful program.
Thank you. And the program will be free to our residents.
It is free, yes.
Okay, thank you for that. Mayor Pro Tem.
Any other questions?
Yes, ma'am. Thank you, Madam Mayor. How you doing, ma'am?
Fine, thank you.
Great presentation. There are two things that stood out to me as this is concerned. First of all, that you're sharing it with the city, and that does allow us to publicize it and advertise for the program that you're starting up. But more importantly, that you're doing it because the city can't. We don't have, to the best of my knowledge, we don't have any medical personnel on staff other than our EMTs, and they're not suited to do what you're doing. So someone has to step in and do that. So to have a partner with Advent who's taken a lead on this and actually trying to get to the bottom of, some chronic issues, health issues that we have through food and through activities, I think that's a very important thing. I think that there are more organizations out there that probably are in the same vein as you, and I hope this advertisement that we can do from the city will help establish that for you as well.
Thank you, sir. Your time is up.
Okay.
Councilwoman Gonzalez.
I share that same sentiment. This is a wonderful program. When we had our town hall, there was a representative there that shared this information. And I think that you hit the nail on the head with the community partnerships. I've been championing this for a very long time, and everyone offers something a little different. And this component of the education and teaching people how to actually make the meals and then use the things that they're getting, that's a huge piece that's missing. And so I'm really excited about this potential. So thank you for bringing this forward so that we can all hear it collectively. And I look forward to being able to learn more about it and how I can help. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Boyd.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Good evening, Mrs. West. Thank you for the presentation, and thank you to the mayor for making sure this was on the agenda. This is very relevant information with the data that's been collected. And it's also a reflection of the hospital's vision. And so we do appreciate that we have this information to work with. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am, and CEO Roberts, thank you also. We have one, Councilwoman Cobb.
Good evening. You know what's so good about it is that I get a chance to see you all work every day, and when we go to those committee meetings and see the passion that you all have for the communities of Killeen. So thank you. I enjoy working with you. I'm so honored to hear those numbers and to hear the report and to know that we're ready to go. And that means a lot.
Can't wait to see you at the next meeting.
That's right.
Thank you. Councilwoman Gonzalez.
I just have one additional question for you regarding, you mentioned the youth and a partnership with the graduates for the mental health students for those programs. Do we already have an externship agreement with Texas A&M, or is that in process? Or
We
is that
do
something that
not, but there is a process that needs to go through in order to make sure that we have qualified graduates, and then they have a proctor that can oversee them through the process and get them and sign off on their work. And so I'm working on that now, looking into that. Baylor has some students that we can look into, and then we'll be talking with Texas A&M.
Wonderful, thank you.
Councilmember Boyd.
I'm sorry, I don't have anything to say. Thank you.
Thank you once again. Thank you both for coming out tonight. Thank you.
My pleasure.
Madam Secretary.
Citizens petitions. CP 23009. Amanda Corley. Bruce, Animal Welfare, Animal Control.
Thank you. Good evening, ma'am. You have 4 minutes.
Sorry, my foot fell asleep. I tried to speak about this last time I was here, but I was told I was not allowed to. So I decided to put it on the petition, and here I am. My dog was taken from his home. There were 2 KPD officers and an animal control officer there. I was by myself. No signed warrant. He was kept in quarantine for 30 days by himself. He escaped once, by the way. I was told he could be rescued. I was given hope over and over again, as long as he was out of the city of Killeen, because he was deemed dangerous. 3 rescues and an adopter who went with me down to the city of Killeen Animal Shelter and said, I would pay you. They were all told no. I paid Animal Control the amount that was told to me to pay them for his time there. Y'all were sent emails, calls. I even pled with you, Miss Mayor, and you, City Manager, and even you, Assistant City Manager. All I was told was there's nothing we can do. He was going to die. And for what? What did he die for? He died, and he was killed for not biting, for escaping. And that's sad. He did nothing wrong, and I put him into the arms of you and the animal control in hopes that y'all would take care of him in the time that he was away from my family, my children, my son, my husband. And that's not what happened. The last picture we saw of him, my older son, Matthew, actually looked at me and said, Mom, why does he look so sick? What did he do wrong? He got out. Now, I get visitations from animal control weekly, on a weekly basis. Even 15 minutes before I showed up at this meeting, animal control was at my house. It's amazing to me that nobody knew that anything was going on with Bruce or my home or my family or my community or in my street. But every time I see them on my street, I know the next day I'll be getting a visit. And that's exactly what happened. 30 days in quarantine. Have any of you ever gone 30 days without speaking? The feeling of a family member thinking of you or even being there? I was told no, over and over again. I cannot see him. He's in quarantine. And for what? For not biting. There are resolutions to this problem. But my big problem at this moment is that nobody knew what was going on. Nobody knew who the situation was, but everybody got emails. I even spoke to 2 people personally, one on the phone, only to be told no. For my dog, yes, just a dog, but my family is still hurt by that, to the point where animal control came to my house today, and my children started crying because they're afraid you're going to take their dogs and kill them, or make sure they don't have water, or not love on them. I am so sickened at the fact that there's fear-mongering going on, and KPD and animal control are being used to do so. I'm tired. I've told y'all that before.
Thank you. Madam Secretary.
CP 23010, Linda Marzi, freedom of speech at Killeen, Texas, City Council meetings.
Thank you, Madam Secretary. Good evening, ma'am. You have 4 minutes.
The United States Constitution, First Amendment, in part states, Congress respecting shall make no law an establishment of religion or prohibiting the exercise thereof or abridging the freedom of speech. Under the Constitution, United States citizens are guaranteed freedom of speech. I looked into the City of Killeen government standards and expectations, where it states under orders of business, number 7, citizen petitions and information. In part, council members cannot discuss items presented under this agenda item. Recently, citizens were abruptly shut down while speaking to council. I was scheduled to speak on an item when I was gaveled off of the podium. The council declared that I was not discussing the specific item. If council would have listened to me, my presentation was about city government problems regarding search and seizure, not a specific event. Like many of the speakers, my speech was shot down by the pounding gavel. Monday of last week, I visited City Hall to present my citizen petition. I listed my item as civil council citizens, which to me was one topic involving the Killeen City government. I was told that I could not speak on my item because it was 3 individual items, not just one item. I was at City Hall for approximately 2 hours and 10 minutes, trying to explain to city staff that my petition was only 1 item, not 3 items. The heading of my heading was Civil Council Citizens, was 1 item. The combination of all those 3 words means government. Tonight we have a citizen's petition that contains 3 words: Bruce, animal welfare, animal control. Recently, we had a citizen's petition with 3 words: Civil Council Citizens. Why wasn't I allowed today to present my citizen's petition, Civil Council Citizens? I was forced by city staff to present a citizen petition titled Freedom of Speech, Killeen City Council. I feel that I was singled out and discriminated against and not allowed at this meeting to present my original titled citizen's position. What you as city council members did by banging your gavel and not allowing citizens to speak was wrong and illegal. The council had no right to destroy our freedom of speech rights. None of us were disrespectful to any of you. None of us threatened you in any way. It appears that council doesn't want to hear the citizens' comments presenting information that contradicts council's opinions. You were totally out of order trying to silence us by trashing us with intimidation. None of us deserved, at your whim, to be totally disrespected and cast aside. You have to hold the oath you took to be a council member and defend our citizens' freedom of speech rights. Or you can attempt to try and shut us all down, but you can't do both. All of you swore an oath to defend the Constitution. Council is now deciding what citizens can and cannot say, and is disposing of our guaranteed freedom of speech rights. It appears that council wants to bar, object to, and gavel anything that is not their idea. Banging your gavel was done to silence those of us who came to address council, but your actions were carried out by an illegal process. All United Free States citizens are definitely and forever guaranteed freedom of rights of speech. You do not have the right to silence us, and we will not be silenced.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Madam Secretary.
Citizen comments.
Good evening, citizens. Once again, you have 4 minutes when you come on up to the podium. You must speak on items that are on the agenda. I will give you a warning when you're off the agenda. Please just continue, because you can continue to use your 4 minutes, but you must discuss items that are on the agenda. With that being said, Mrs. DeConte, good evening, ma'am. You have 4 minutes.
Good evening. I wanted to say that on Monday, April the 24th, 2023, at approximately 10 a.m., my citizens petition was approved for today, May 2nd, 2023, and yet it did not appear on today's agenda. Madam Mayor, why did you direct the city manager to remove it?
Ma'am, and I normally don't do this, but I haven't even seen a citizen petition. It goes through the city staff office, and I see it when it's on the agenda. So why yours was or was not, I don't know.
Well, I'm curious as to find out what happened to it, because it was approved on the day that I was over here.
You still have 3 minutes and 16 seconds.
I'm still kind of waiting for an answer to find out why I wasn't on this agenda.
I just told you, I don't have the answer, but you got 3 minutes and 4 seconds.
Can you tell me who else has authority over the agendas?
I'll do my best to answer. It's incorrect that it was approved. What we've tried to do, and with Ms. Marzi as well, is to help people comply with the Open Meetings Act. You have to have something specific so the public can read the agenda and know what is going to be talked about. When it's overly broad, that doesn't work. It doesn't comply with the Open Meetings Act. So I can't remember what yours was, but I'm sure it was one of the ones that was overly broad, and you should have received an email from the city.
I received nothing, sir.
Okay.
Nothing, not a thing, not a telephone call, anything. And my title had to do with the ineffectiveness of local government as far as the citizens of Killeen. I don't know how I can be plainer than that. Very disappointed that you all decide to scrutinize every little thing that the citizens try to get up and do. That That's not a democracy, last time I checked. Readjustment in attitudes, I've mentioned that before in one of my statements. I believe it calls for that again. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Jack Ross. Good evening, sir. You have 4 minutes.
Good evening, Mayor, Council. I'm here to speak on firearms in the City Council chambers. This seems to come up every time there's some kind of brouhaha in here where responsible citizens exercising their right to self-defense, to be armed, are threatened with being disarmed. Now, unlike the council, I do not have all these police officers heavily armed and armored to protect me when I walk out the door. I need to take responsibility for my own actions. I have never attacked a member of the council. However, council members have assaulted citizens, which is what kicked this off. I'm over 70 years old. I'm kind of broke. Got fake hips, got lots of scars. Jumped out of one too many airplanes, got blown up one time too many. So I need a little extra edge because even though in my youth I was a martial artist and did pretty darn well at it, I no longer can do that because I'm broke. I'm an old man. And somehow that seems to threaten some folks. Now, Ms. Fleming wrote a letter to the editor, and I've known Ms. Fleming for a long time, and I know that she used to carry a firearm when she was on the dais. And before she did, I used to escort her when we were over across the street out to her car at night because of the homeless and the crime in downtown Killeen in the dark. But now I'm not good enough. Now I'm hoping that the plan isn't to reinstate the 30-06 and 30-07. And I don't want to point any fingers because I may be, unfortunately, having to speak before I hear what you actually have to say. So I apologize if that is not the intent of this. But since I can't speak when you're discussing it, I have to say it in advance, which leaves me at a disadvantage. So I would prefer that we continue to allow responsible citizens to carry responsibility for their own protection. And please keep in mind, normally you only have 2 police officers. You got a guy sitting in the back, got a guy sitting outside. So if a bad guy comes in, he knows where that police officer's sitting. Okay? Knows exactly where he's sitting. If bad guy wants to start shooting up stuff, who's he going to take out first? So there's at least 5 armed police officers here tonight. What are you afraid of? Thank you.
Thank you, Jonathan Okray. Good evening, sir. You have 4 minutes.
Honorable Mayor, Council, City Manager, I stand before you today to speak on the discussion item of arms within the chambers. A memorandum dated May the 25th, 2016 was submitted to the City Secretary requesting that concealed and open carry prohibitions at council meetings, boards, and commission meetings be an item of discussion during a future workshop. The council prohibited citizens and residents from lawfully carrying concealed or open at council meetings, boards, and commissions, January the 5th, 2016. The item was placed on the agenda for discussion at the council workshop, July the 5th, 2016, as DS 06016-081. Subject to the discussion, the item was placed on the meeting agenda as RS 16-076, where the council considered allowing for carrying concealed handguns at the city's open meetings by no longer posted notice in accordance with Penal Code Title 10, Section 46.03B14. A companion resolution, RS 16-077, considered allowing the open carrying of handguns at the city's open meetings by no longer posted notice. A motion was made and second to approve RS 16-076. The motion carried 6-1. A motion was made and seconded to approve RS 16-077. The motion carried 6-1. Notably, the council member who later called for and recently called again for prohibitions voted in favor of RS 16-076 and RS 16-077 respectively. As recently as yesterday, during a workshop of the Bell County Commissioners Court covering this identical subject, a speaker intoned the tragedy that took place at the Uvalde, Texas Elementary School. The speaker also mentions the presence of over 300 law enforcement personnel after the fact. I wondered the commitment to the task a person who has or would tend toward assault and murder have the same energy if gun-free zones were not advertised. I wonder if things would have turned out differently had anyone willing to carry had in their possession inside of the schools as events unfolded an equal or greater tool to blunt the deranged person who carried out the atrocity. Further, and historically speaking, I wonder if former slaves had at the time the right to keep and bear arms. That right, blunted and denied by the Plessy v. Ferguson decision, would a Jim Crow era ever been a thing, along with the Ku Klux Klan, the first American terrorist organization formulated by the Democratic Party after 1865. Are you ready to take on the legal liability for my safety of every person within this and other public spaces? Cain killed Abel with a stone and then asked after the fact, "Am I my brother's keeper?" The great misnomer of our day is that of gun violence. How does an inanimate object function on its own? Who's really responsible for the functioning of an inanimate object? Do we blame pencils and pens for misspelled words? Inanimate objects do not function on their own. It takes human interaction in order for them to function. I have yet to be assaulted by a stone, knife, or gun, but the potential of a human behind either is always present. People who legally own and responsibly carry, either concealed or open, endure extensive vetting and background check. If it ain't broke, don't fix it until it is. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Melissa Brown. Good evening. You have 4 minutes.
Anyone could tell us citizens how we get the ability to be posted on the agenda as a presenter instead of a citizen that is commenting, that would be great. I know personally I would love to get 18 minutes to stand up here and talk to the council about a 22-item agenda instead of 4 minutes, and then get 5 minutes of question and answering time. It'd be wonderful. But since I'm limited to 4, please try to bear with me. Mayor, I'm going to turn in a different sheet for you because I've completely changed up what I'm going to say. If this body is not completely violating our First Amendment rights, they're at least severely limiting it. By limiting us to only 4 minutes, by saying it has to be only what is on the agenda, which is not in the spirit of the Open Meetings Act. The Open Meetings Act simply says the body cannot discuss something that is not on the agenda. It does not say citizens cannot discuss it. If you are going to continue to say that that is the case, then you are saying that the Killeen ISD Board of Directors is not compliant with the Open Meetings Act, because I can go to their meeting right now and speak on anything. I would love to be able to go into more detail on how the curfew ordinance is no good for our youth. As a matter of fact, it is completely contradictory to every single thing that the council has done regarding Prop A and not giving a criminal record to our young people. Instead, this should be listed as an enhancement or strictly for people who have priorly violated. I would love to go into more detail about why number 7, Anthem Park, should not be getting any more money out of the TERS, nor should any money be put towards it, since Anthem Park is no longer going to be committing to the same thing that they were agreed to in the PUD. I would love to go into more detail about the battery farm over on Featherline and get information like who's going to pay the $180 million and what is the long-term cost to the city? Why are we putting it in a populated area? I'll have time. I would love to go into more detail about putting a B3 in an agricultural and AR1 zone that is currently in our controlled growth zone according to our future land use map and according to our comprehensive plan, but I don't have time to go into depth on that because I don't have 15 minutes. I would really love to know why we're going to spend an extra $121,500 to hire an engineering company that would just oversee and observe the engineering and construction of the Rosa Herford Bob Gilmore Center. We should hire another staff member if we're willing to pay that much for one project. It would cost us less in the long term. I don't have a lot of time to go into much detail on that. I would love to tell you every reason why I'm very supportive of the selection for our new chief of police. I don't even have time to go into detail in praising that. Yesterday, as it was mentioned, the County Commissioners Court also discussed banning firearms to the citizens. And they resoundingly decided to do nothing and to allow the citizens to continue to have their Second Amendment right. I strongly feel, as do many of the people here, that this council limits our First Amendment rights, but to violate our second in the same time is completely throwing away your oath of office to uphold and defend the Constitution. As I stated yesterday, it would not be able to prohibit any other weapons. Someone can come in with a knife and stab someone, and unless there's an officer with a gun nearby, there's no way to safely disarm them. As I also told the commissioners yesterday, your oath says defend and uphold the Constitution, which means not violating our Second Amendment rights. Citizens who are regularly shut down in silence, and when the city refuses to listen to the engaged, what they will instead hear is the voices of the enraged, no matter how calmly it is stated. I have a lot more I'd like to say, but again, I'm not afforded the time.
Thank you, ma'am. Your time is up.
Yeah.
Barbara Hinkle. Good evening, ma'am. You have 4 minutes.
Good evening, Mayor, Council. Well, I'm back again. And as you probably know, it's about the senior center.
Yes, ma'am.
I think it's about time we move forward on that. It's been too long. It's going to cost more money now than it would have. Yes, council came in to be, or not council, I'm sorry. COVID was a big drawback on it. That's been gone for over a year. People have been back to work. Bids were not made right away to have the construction move forward. That is from the knowledge that I've gotten. And then when it did put out bids, they didn't get any bids because all of the other catastrophes that have been going on, all the construction workers were doing that. So now they finally put out it again. To my understanding, I believe we got 2 bids for construction to move forward, and we haven't moved forward yet. And now we're just here to pass something to go on to City Council next week. And I certainly hope you move forward on that. It's been too long for the seniors. They've been patient. Some of them have just plain given up. They don't have the faith in City Council. And it's not just this council, because it started with the other council also. It's an ongoing thing that has to come to the end. The seniors are suffering for it. The center that we have at the Lions Club is fantastic. But do you realize we have 4,000 1,000 members for the senior. Now, you know the size of that building is not going to accommodate. When the other one is done, we're going to be looking pretty good. I volunteer there almost every day of the week, but I do get Fridays off to do my housework. But any given day, there's between 400 and 500 seniors that goes through the doors of the Lions Club. Fortunately, it's not all at one time, but the staff, they can't be applauded enough. How they can bring in all of the new ideas. I don't know if anybody, I guess I dropped it. No, I didn't. Has read the scoop. Look at the back page. Look at the programs that staff has brought forward. People get angry. The seniors are getting to the point that they just don't care to hear anything more because it's not going to come about. Very few of you have even gone in there to see the programs, unless you've done it on a Friday and I wasn't there. Please, please move forward. Sometimes your feet have been drawing to the point that, okay, well, we have to table this. We have to let's bring it to this next one. And then by the time you bring it to the next one, the price has gone up. Now, do you want to keep throwing money away that way? Let's get this project done. Give it to the seniors. Everything says, oh, it's for the kids, for the kids. Don't get me wrong. I am all for the kids. But all of their projects seem to come first. And it's finished right away. This senior building was put on way before some of the projects that have already been done. Maybe this project isn't important to you because you're not at that age. We have lost.
Ms. Hinkle.
May I have one?
Yes, ma'am.
30 seconds.
Counsel, can she have 30 seconds? Yes, ma'am.
All I want to say is we have lost senior members this past year who have passed away, who talked highly of the senior center that Killeen has. They were looking forward, and they would have seen it, even if it was only halfway on schedule. They would have been here to see it, and now they're gone. How many more have to miss out because you're not moving on it? Thank you for your time.
Ms. Hinkle, I just want to make a comment.
My last name is Hanky. I'm
Hanky,
sorry.
I'm sorry,
And I
ma'am.
am a resident of Killeen.
Yes, ma'am. This council is 100% behind our senior citizen population. And I do attend that facility, and I know, yes, ma'am, I know how crowded it can be. But there are other things that were behind the scene, that was foreseen, things that we had to take care of, and hiring a new staff. And I'm not making an excuse, but I can guarantee you, if it's on this agenda, this council here, we are in support of it.
Please,
So we do stand behind you.
please. The
Yes,
seniors
ma'am.
deserve it.
Yes,
Thank you.
ma'am. Thank you for your comments. Councilmember Boyd.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and I was going to echo a lot of the same of what you said. I don't want to come across that the seniors are not a priority for the council, or those things are getting delayed. And I'm going to actually ask the city manager to kind of give some type of explanation for the delay. I'm sure there's I understand the reason, but. if we
Well,
can-
sure, I mean, and it is on the agenda for action. And yes, so COVID was brought up, that did slow it down, but it was very tragic because the architect on this project passed away from COVID. And I think we have put that out to the seniors quite a bit. And then, so that set it back quite a bit. And then we got to a point where we could bid the project out, and we didn't get any bids. And so we worked very hard to get contractors. We bid the project again, and we did get 2 qualified bids. And the city has dedicated significantly more money to this project than we ever expected.
Right.
And there were also the add-ons to the project that are on for approval. So I think there is a significant commitment to the seniors on this project.
Right, and thank you for that clarification, that insight, Mr. City Manager.
Sure
Thank you.
thing.
Councilmember Cobb.
Good evening. Mrs. Hinkie, when I come over to the senior center, or if I'm in a meeting, I see on the faces of the many seniors how much they care. Just recently, I signed up and I became a senior member, so I received the April paper. Know that we are for you. Know that we're working for that center to be beneficial and for it to open soon. I think we need to put a sticky on our mirrors and put a date and know that we're going to walk in on that date. Give us some time. Let us meet the standards, look at the new bids, and let us work. But do know we support you.
Councilmember Segar.
Thank you, Mayor. And I just want to say, we did get an update because I had a couple of seniors approach me a couple of months ago, and they wanted an update. So it was something that was discussed, I want to say about 2 months ago, on the city council agenda. And it became at the request of our seniors. We spoke about it. I think the biggest thing was explained at that time is we didn't get any bids on it, and so we had to rebid it. But I just want to say it's something that we have been engaging on it. Unfortunately, things don't always pan out the way we hope and wish they came out, but I'm really appreciative because I know, believe me, seniors let me know. And you let me know last time and said, you know, what's the update? And it was on the agenda as an update. Thank you.
Bear Jones. Good evening, sir. You have 4 minutes.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, City Council, Justice of the Peace over there, and Assistant Manager and City Manager. Well, I understand the reason why Ms. Hinckley was upset about things, because every time we have a meeting, we bring it up. And I know you guys support us, because every time I ask you for something, individually, like, the whole city help me take care of those seniors. And I appreciate that. Miss Kelly just got started. We've been talking about the stove being fixed. She finally got the money to get it taken care of. But that stuff done went up according to life itself. Y'all are doing the best you can. And I appreciate that. But like you said, we got to keep telling people we're going to do it. I know there's going to be more work for the Senior Advisor Board because we had to split up. But we don't mind. We don't mind because I appreciate what you're doing for us. And keep me informed, because every time I cry about something, somebody listen up there. And somebody get it taken care of with no problem. And I appreciate you. That's good enough, Ms. Hinkie? That's good enough, dear?
Thank you, sir. Ms. Etta Bell. Good evening, ma'am. Etta Bell, you have 4 minutes.
Good evening. My name is Etta Bell. This is my first time ever speaking to the city, but I think I need to come more often since I hear a lot of stuff going on in the city. I've been here since '91, on and off. I retired here at Fort Hood. I'm a resident here, and I had my house built out in the country here. But there's a lot going on in the city that I didn't know. But I'm getting to it. Don't forget I'm getting to it, because I got 4 minutes. I know that. But I'm speaking on the PH 230332. And just in case I didn't state to you all, thank you for letting me speak, Mayor, Council. I know some of you are tired, because I see some of you sleeping on the job. But we ain't gonna speak on that either. I'm here to talk about this battery plant, storage, wherever you want to call it, going to be across the street from the police station on Featherline. I live out there, been out there for 13 years, okay? You don't live out there, because I know who live in my area, because I've been out there for 13 years, okay? So you probably don't care or you may care about this plant coming here or storage. These batteries can kill all of us, even the kids. If this battery stuff leak or explode, about 2 years ago, no, I'll say probably 4 years ago, somewhere up in there, that, what is it, electricity plant right there across the street, that power got hit by electricity.
Right.
I live
The
about 4 streets
transformer.
over. I heard it from my house. Just think, if that storage place get hit, it's a lot of us back there. The police station is back there. They won't even be able to function either, because when it blow, it's gonna blow. I don't wanna be a West. And we all know what West is, the town West. If you wanna build that or put it somewhere else, but not where we live at. It's 21.1 acres, this large storage is gonna be sitting on. I would like to live here a little longer and enjoy my grandkids. Thank you. And I hope you all consider where you want to put this storage and say no. I say no, we all should agree on no. And I hope to see you all again.
Kate Lloyd. Thank you.
Council members.
Good evening, ma'am. You have 4 minutes.
Thank you, council members, Madam Mayor. Thank you for allowing me to speak today. I am Kat Lloyd with Pop House TV. I'm here in town and have been for a couple of times filming footage about Bruce. I've filmed with many, many family members, neighbors, and 6 amazing children that brought me to tears. As I'm going through the information and about 6 hours worth of film, all kinds of documents, I got to one point where I had a question. And so I went and did a little bit of research, and I went to, it wasn't a lot of good reading here, it was kind of boring, but it was informative, the Health and Safety Code for Animals, Title 10, Section 822.002, subparagraph B. The Animal Control Authority shall seize the dog or order its seizure and shall provide for the impoundment of the dog in a secure and humane condition until the court orders the disposition of the dog. I was going to bring this story out a lot sooner. It'll be on social media, all through local television in Central Texas, and I stopped, and I came in and did 2 more films because I couldn't find the answer. And the reason why I'm saying this is when Bruce, a social butterfly, an escape artist, went into quarantine, he weighed 95 pounds. 29 days later, Bruce was at less than 70 pounds in 29 days. And that concerned me because according to this, it states that while he's in your care, he'll be taken care of. He'll be fed some water. He'll be fed, food. According to the health safety code, I think that he is supposed to have water at all times and food at least once a day. So I did a little bit more research. And what I found, and I didn't bring all of them, that you can see that in the story. Here is pictures of the quarantine section at the city shelter or quarantine area. No food, no water. So could that very well be the reason why Bruce lost so much weight? In a recent situations this weekend, somebody was called to the carpet because they didn't have water inside of a crate during an adoption event. And I have it on film where the officer states that it must, according to the ordinance in the city of Killeen, they must have water at all times. Why don't they? We're in quarantine. Why don't they get the same type of treatment? The second part of my story is I wanted to see, is this ordinance for dangerous dog, is it applied equally? And today I filmed a story that kind of shook me up a little bit because I don't have an explanation. And I'm hoping that together we can come up with an explanation. There was a dog that was up for adoption. The dog, somebody wanted to, the person I interviewed with today, they wanted to see and meet the dog. Unfortunately, the dog was brought in by an animal control officer or a staff member, I'm not sure yet, and it made a straight beeline to a 12-year-old child that was in the room, excited to see this dog. And that's a pretty big bite. So I asked her today, did you get any medical attention? And they said, yes, we got a Band-Aid. I see a problem with that, and I'm hoping that maybe we can address and find a solution.
Ma'am.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Patsy Bracy. Good evening, ma'am. You have 4 minutes.
Good afternoon, Mayor and City Council. I'm Patsy Bracy, and I have been involved in this project since 2016. In 2016, Mrs. Hinkle and some engineers came over to the Gilmore Center. You guys weren't even, you don't have nothing to do with this, you weren't even seated. At the time, she brought in some engineers, the money had been funded, and all of a sudden, the money went over to the Killeen Community Center. And I'm the vice chair of the CDAC committee. I know how the money has been floating. I know you just recently got some money. And on around 2021, the old Gilmore Center was tore down. There was it was an empty space in those seniors' hearts. There were so many memories that they shared there. We have lost at least 6 members since we have gone through this. It is 2023. I know why you couldn't renovate the building, but that's none of my business. I know exactly why you didn't. That's something that you deal with. But we have come along and we've had bumps in the road. We've got the money now. If we don't use it, you know where it goes. It goes back to the federal. We can't do this anymore. We cannot do this anymore. These seniors need a place to go. They are older and they just don't adapt, I'm sorry, at the Line Center. They don't like the loud music. They want to be with their friends in a small group where they can do their personal games and entertain themselves. Now, they are coming to the Line Center now, and that's good. But this has to be done. It has to be done. If you need me to come down there and put my nails on and my hammer, I'll be happy to do it. Because I've been through this since 2016, and we're not going to do it anymore. It's going to happen. And I know, I trust every one of you up there to make this happen. Thank you.
Thank you. Micah Fornino. Good evening, sir. You have 4 minutes.
Discuss possible action regarding council member decorum. That's quite a euphemism. Meeting tonight in question on the 18th of April. If I'd step one step beyond this podium, Madam Mayor, you would have had 100 cops on top of me. But instead, you lost control of the meeting, you failed to control the public, you demonstrated via your own culpable inefficiency your inability to execute your most basic duties, amongst and chief of which is keeping the citizens safe. You could have ended that entire situation and displayed by Mr. Wilkerson by simply standing up and directing the sergeant-at-arms to escort Mr. Wilkerson back to his seat or out of the building. But you failed to do so. And as the paper very accurately updated the story, it was you that raised the specter of the weapon. Forgive the affectation. Mayor Pro Tem, he has a weapon. My statement merely confirmed it. That's all I did. I made no threats. Video, audio, quite clearly proffers the evidence. The contrary, I was not the one looking to be kinetic. And as a result, you want to play the reverse Uno card. You want to disarm me and everybody else. Why is there the double standard? That seems to be a common theme that's been discussed tonight. Rules for us, but not for you. I mean, you failed, Madam Mayor. I mean, as Mr. Wilkerson stated, he was going to re-examine his position. And again, previously in the press and his comments on the record to the press, I'm a lunatic. Well, if you look up the behavior and what that word is, the person who was quite visibly not looking to engage on that level while you were tugging at his arm unsuccessfully, Mr. Wilkerson is the one who was displaying said behavior that he accused me of. I made no threats. Quite the opposite. So, after giving Mr. Wilkerson some chance, and I put some feelers out there, nobody responded, and given the ludicrous wording, discussed possible action regarding council member decorum, as though he used the wrong dinner fork at a formal party. If Mr. Wilkerson does not resign, and based on this ridiculous wording, weak wording, from weak opinions, weak-willed, not looking to enforce any standards on themselves, but at a hair trigger will do the same to us. If Mr. Wilkerson is still sitting in that chair as Mayor Pro Tem by the end of this meeting, I will be immediately going to Killeen Police Department and formally filing charges under at least Texas Penal Code 22, Section A, Number 2, intentionally or knowingly threatening another with imminent bodily injury, because that's the only way it could be taken. He wasn't coming down there to discuss Sudoku techniques. He wasn't coming down there to discuss classic artists. There was only one way that could have been interpreted. So, once again, we're going to put that to you in the city. I have no faith or confidence that you'll actually apply the standard to yourself. You didn't then, and I don't have any expectation that you're going to do the same. So, I'm going to file the charges, because if I'd filed them prior to this meeting, I wouldn't be able to speak on this topic tonight. Using your rules in accordance with the way you folks want to do business. So then, if criminal charges then stall, what have we established? We have fascism in a little petri dish just forward here. That's what that is. You may not like the word, but that's the actual definition. You want to use the law and regulations and stipulations to bash us over the head, but then you don't apply the standard to yourselves. And the blank stare off. Is there something over there, Madam Mayor? Yeah.
Sir, your time is up.
Yours will be too.
Bill Paquette. Paquette. Good evening, sir. You have 4 minutes.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, council members, Mr. Cagle. Yeah, touchy subject about civilians being armed in the council chambers. I was here years ago when it was brought up that one of the council members at the time actually wanted to see metal detectors here. And of course, it was brought up that these are not cheap. Maintaining them, having them manned by our police officers is not inexpensive. But in the same breath and say, but we're the good stewards of your money, but we don't feel safe, so we want to have this. Well, obviously, the other council members saw that that really wasn't justifiable. And so here, 6, 7 years later, we're bringing this up again, not with the metal detectors, but as Mr. O'Cray and Mr. Ralston said here, you want to take away our ability to protect ourselves. Now, I respect and support our law enforcement. It was brought up, if somebody wants to hurt us, who are the first ones they're going after? The folks that stand out like a sore thumb. Now, I know there's at least 3 people out here in the audience who are armed at any given time, and there's probably more. All happen to be veterans. I salute that. And even though we may have our differences from time to time, I don't think anybody means anybody any harm on the dais. So I don't think you need to worry about that. Words fly, but that's usually all it is, In the letter to the editor that was printed here recently, a former council member said, well, they don't have, guns aren't allowed in the courthouse. Well, that's a little different setting. You have trials there. many of them murder trials, rape trials. Emotions are high. If you're a family member of somebody who was senselessly killed or raped, yeah, you may very well have family members that want to seek retribution. They don't want to leave it in the jury's hands. They don't want to leave it in the judge's hands. I want to do it. We argue here every once in a while, but I don't think anybody out here would ever go that far. And like I said, we've got these officers now. We have more of a police presence than we ever had before. So I think that problem has been solved. I think maybe the council can neutralize situations a little bit better when people out here get irate and they get, like you, they're passionate about what they're talking about. Obviously, some don't go about it the correct way, you know. You can be passionate about something and not be rude, not be condescending or threatening to anybody. But I would like for you to let us continue to be armed, because if somebody wants to hurt any of us, they'll find a way. It does not have to be here in the council chambers. As soon as I leave this building, somebody could hurt me. Soon as you get off the dais and you're heading to your car, if somebody really wants to hurt you, nobody's going to be able to stop that. Now, if you're armed, maybe, you know, you stand a chance of defending yourself. Well, I want the same thing. I'm not looking for trouble, and for the most part, I never run across trouble. So, but I do like having the ability to protect myself, because as it was brought up previously, that responsibility falls on me, not you, not the police. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Christopher Stickles. Good evening. Good evening, sir. You have 4 minutes.
Hello, I'm Chris Stickles. I'm the president of the Killeen Police Employee Association Fraternal Order of Police. We represent over 250 city employees, both officers and civilian staff. I'm here today regarding the city manager's choice for the next chief of police. Well, first, I want to thank the city manager, city councils, and anyone else who took time in the selection process. I want to give a special thank you to the community interview panel who took time away from their personal lives to listen to the candidates and provide their input to the city manager. We felt the community's direct feedback in selecting our next chief was very important. The Killeen Police Employees Association Fraternal Order of Police agrees and supports the city manager's selection of Chief Pedro Lopez Jr. as the next Killeen Police Department Chief of Police. We look forward to working with and for Chief Lopez. Our association asks for the City Council to approve the appointment of Chief Lopez. We also want to thank Chief Kimball for his dedicated leadership during his time of Chief of Police and wish him well in his future endeavors. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, sir. C.J. Grishner. Good evening, sir. Sir, you have 4 minutes. And I apologize if I messed up your last name.
Grisham.
Grisham.
Yes, ma'am, that's all right.
Thank you for being so kind.
My name is CJ Grisham. I'm the president and founder of Open Carry Texas. I'm also the legal and policy advisor to Texas Gun Rights. I addressed this body, obviously a bunch of different people at the time. As a matter of fact, I believe Jonathan Okray was on the city council in 2016 when I addressed y'all after the passage of Open Carry about when you're looking at putting up these signs. We would obviously encourage you not to do that for several reasons. First of all, you're not just disarming us here in the chambers. You're disarming us from our cars to this chambers. You're also requiring those of us that carry on a daily basis for self-defense to leave a gun in a car that is unattended, whether it's locked or not. And all that the public has to do, if they're looking for guns, is just wait until a city council meeting, watch who comes in, and break into that car during the city council meeting. Now you've got more guns on the streets. The fact of the matter is that for the last almost 10 years now, 7 years, 8 years, this hasn't been a problem. There haven't been issues with gun owners that are causing issues. We open carry, we conceal carry. We aren't the enemy. We're here and to not only protect ourselves, but if somebody were to come in here, I know you've got officers in here as well, but they might not be the closest, or they might not even have a direct line on whoever it is that's trying to harm you, whereas a citizen might. And so it's just an addition to what law enforcement provides. And I want to give you some statistics. Since 1992, about 9 in 10 of the attacks are in gun-free zones. Gun-related attacks are in gun-free zones. And if you look over a longer period from 1950 till today, 94% of all attacks are in gun-free zones. Now, what I want to share with you are some stories, about a half dozen stories I pulled last night in gun-free zones at city councils and what really happens. Keep in mind, these are places guns are prohibited. 5 murdered in a Missouri city council shooting. Gunman carrying a grudge against city council left a suicide note on his bed before he went on a deadly shooting spree at a council meeting. That was a gun-free zone. 2 cops shot inside New Hope, Minnesota City Hall. Again, who's the first one that's going to be targeted? The police officers are. You're actually putting their lives in danger when you put up gun-free zone signs. A killing in city council chambers stuns a city in rural Iowa. It was a quiet city council meeting Wednesday night until the fatal ending when a heavyset man with gray hair and glasses strolled in, casually walked up to the council table, and began shouting an epithet. Next thing you know, he approached Mayor Edward King, shooting him in the forehead. As everyone else was scrambling, he went to another city council member and shot her. 6 wounded in shootout at Riverside City Hall. 6 people were wounded, including the mayor and 2 city council members, after a dismissed Recreation Department chess coach opened fire with a handgun in City Hall conference room before being fatally shot. Kirkwood City Council shooting. A gunman went on a shooting rampage at a public meeting in the City Hall, leaving 6 people dead and 1 injured in Kirkwood. And finally, town hall meeting turns deadly in Pennsylvania. Terrified people at the rural Pennsylvania Township Board meeting ran for cover as the shooter opened fire and yelled, "They stole my land, they stole my land." The gunman killed 3 people at the board meeting. You're not making us any safer if you ban guns. You're making all of us less safe. And we would urge you, as Open Carry Texas and Texas Gun Rights, not to put up the signs and keep it as it is. Thank you.
Thank you. Anka? Good evening, ma'am. You have 4 minutes. I'm sorry. Stand by. Councilwoman Cobb.
I just have a little something that I would like to say to everyone tonight. The richer that we have become materially, the poor we have become morally and spiritually. To sit here and to have to hear brothers and sisters talk about bringing guns and if it's going to be aimed, if we should be armed, or if we should not be armed. No one is taking away an amendment right for anyone to carry. We're simply saying, how come we can't come in here in a level field and no one carries anything? I don't think that would hurt anyone. See, we've learned to fly. We got all these inventions. And the air like birds. I type this really good. And swim in the sea like fish. But we have not learned the simple art of living together and doing the right thing towards each other. And if we can't do the right thing towards each other and having constitution and ordinance and all of these things that we have in line, nothing will ever work. It all depends.
Thank you, ma'am. Your time is up.
I'm sorry. Thank you.
You're welcome, and you'll have time to speak more in detail when
Yes, ma'am.
it's coming up on the agenda.
Thank you.
Ms. Anka, I truly apologize. Thank you, Councilwoman Cobb.
Not a problem. Council members, Madam Mayor, congratulations to Chief Lopez for being selected to lead the Killeen Police Department. I met Chief Lopez at the meet and greet organized by the city of Killeen, and I enjoyed hearing about his background. Mr. Lopez is a former Houston police officer. Being a Houston police officer for so many years says something about his thorough understanding of law enforcement. I know this because I graduated from a regional police academy directed by a retired Houston police officer who was an excellent instructor and left a lasting impact on his police academy students. Additionally, Chief Lopez worked with Houston Police Chief Acevedo, who is also a former Austin Police Chief, and he was very well liked. Mr. Lopez learned from the best, and he's an excellent choice for the city of Killeen. Next agenda item. I'm sure you're tired of hearing about Bruce, but I believe this needs to be heard. Bruce was confiscated by animal control with help from police based on a complaint and some unverified neighborhood posts that somehow disappeared since Bruce was killed. Bruce was kind of a little bit of a nuisance. He was an escape artist and he wanted to chase people. Never bit anybody. But instead of fining the owner, animal control chose to confiscate and kill him. Bruce even had adopters outside of the county. All of them were denied. I believe that the police department only acted on what animal control told them to do. I believe this because I have seen it firsthand when I offered my support to the family who lost their pet. They had a small, peaceful protest that ended at the animal shelter. There were about 12 individuals, including 5 children. This is a picture I took when we arrived at the shelter. This picture was taken just minutes before 2 police cars arrived from opposite directions and surrounded us. The officers immediately came up to us and asked us for a permit. I chose to leave together with several others in order to de-escalate the situation. Others stayed. I researched the ordinance the officers mentioned. The ordinance says assembly shall mean any meeting of 25 or more individuals for a substantial period of time in a public place. This did not describe us at all. There were about 12 of us, 12 individuals who spent a short time in front of shelter, about 100 feet in front of the door. How heartless do you have to be to deny the family the right to grieve? Is this what Killeen is about? I hope not. Once again, congratulations to the new Chief of Police. I look forward to working with him. Hopefully, he will make our Crime Solutions Committee meeting in May. Thank you.
Thank you. Madam Secretary, do you have any more consent forms?
No, Madam Mayor, I do not.
All right, thank you. Oh, yes, sir. Oh, yes, Council, Mayor Pro Tem, I apologize.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. As reference to Bruce, I spoke to Ms. Corley about this, and I do feel like, something was missed here in the sense that the last thing that we should want to do is to destroy an animal, anybody. As I hear the situation, and I haven't really gone into detail as far as understanding all the background of what happened, but I think it does warrant us to kind of look into and find out what can we have done to stop the animal from being destroyed, bottom line. And as I hear from the citizens, I feel like that maybe there's something that could be done. I'm not launching an attack on anybody in staff or anybody like that, but I do want to get to the bottom of it and find out, is there anything in the future that would negate the situation from happening, so we don't have this. And to your point, you did reach out. A lot of times that's not enough. That wasn't enough time for me to actually act or do anything and find out with. And I'm sure that's the same for the rest of the council. So thank you.
Mayor Pro Tem, Mr. Cagle, would you like a comment on that?
Sure, just to say that all you've heard is one side tonight. This was heard in court in front of a judge, and a decision was made when all of the facts from both sides were presented. You've only heard one side tonight.
Thank you. Councilwoman Cobb.
Good evening once again. I apologize for everyone. Whatever happened, mistakes can be made. Things happen. The point now, as we go forward, is that we put things in place. So maybe we go back and review and we look. Mr. Cagle just said what I was thinking. There's 2 sides to every story. and we've only heard one side. But what we do know is that we've got to take what we've got, and we've got to move forward so that whatever happened, that it doesn't happen again.
Thank you. And ma'am, on behalf of the council, we're sorry for your loss, and we are. But there are, once litigations are in play, the city, it has to stay out of that once it goes to court. And I'm just sorry for your loss. With that being said, Madam Secretary, discuss items for regular city council meetings on May 9th, 2023. Consent agenda. Council, you have 5 minutes to speak. Hopefully you don't use them 2 times each. But you have that right to use them. So Madam Secretary, with that consent agenda.
Madam Mayor, can you please double-check the citizen comment forms? I'm receiving word that there are more that are up there.
I don't have any more, and we have moved on to the, thank you, Mr. Cagle, the other items on the agenda, but I don't have, ma'am. Ma'am, one moment, let me finish, and I will look and see. You can have 2 or 3 items on here, ma'am, but once you use your 4 minutes, you have to say everything on your form during that 4 minutes. It's not 4 minutes for each item that's on here. Well, ma'am, we have moved.
I was unfamiliar with how.
Yes, ma'am. Well, next week, ma'am.
Because normally I'm not allowed to speak.
Ma'am, thank you. Madam Secretary, move to the next item.
RS 23075, consider a memorandum resolution authorizing a letter of agreement for the transfer station tipping floor fire repair with American Restorer Incorporated in an amount not to exceed $80,412.
Thank you. Public hearing will be held on May 9th, 2023. Council, bless you. You have 5 minutes to speak twice on these items. Bless you. Madam Secretary.
PH 23029, hold a public hearing and consider an ordinance re-adopting the youth curfew, second of 2 public hearings.
Thank you. Assistant Chief Gearhart. Good evening, sir. And council, this item will be voted on by us next week. Good evening, sir.
Council. This is, as you said, this is the second of 2 public hearings. For the next public hearing will be next week, the next regular council meeting. You've seen this presentation. I'd be happy to go through it again or stand for any questions if you have any.
Thank you, Chief. There's no questions of us.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. Madam Secretary.
PH 23031, hold a public hearing and consider an ordinance amending the FY 2023 annual budget of the City of Killeen to increase expenditure accounts in the Tax Increment Reinvestment Zone Fund.
Thank you. Mrs. Drake, good evening, ma'am.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. This is a budget amendment for the TERS Fund. And this is to appropriate funds for the approved projects for the relocation of the Skylark Field Automated Weather Observing System, also known as AWOS, and the Downtown Facade Grant Program. And these were approved by the TERS Board on April 12th. And this would be appropriating $350,000 for the relocation of the AWOS and $100,000 for the downtown facade grants. And we would recommend amending the budget, and I'd be happy to answer any questions you might have.
Thank you, ma'am. Mayor Pro Tem.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Thank you, Ms. Drake. As a TERS board member, this was brought to our attention at the last meeting. And what it is just a movement of an antenna that is used for air traffic control from an area that is adjacent to the Anthem Park development. So we have plenty of room to move that forward, to move that onto the airfield. And I just want to make sure that everybody understands that if they're not understanding why we have to do this, what's behind us actually having to pay to have this thing move. And it's so that we can go forward with the development on Anthem Park. Is that correct?
Correct.
Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Madam Secretary.
PH 23032, hold a public hearing and consider an ordinance requested by Westwood Professional Services on behalf of McLean Commercial LTD, case number Z2311, to rezone approximately 21.16 acres out of the William H. Cole Survey, abstract number 200, from A, Agricultural District, to B2, Local Retail District, with a conditional use permit, CUP, to allow for a battery storage site as a permitted use. This property is locally addressed as 8390 Featherline Road, Killeen, Texas.
Thank you, Madam Secretary. Good evening, Mr. Rebel.
Good evening, Mayor and Mayor Pro Tem, City Council, and City Manager. As has been read, this item is associated with a rezoning request to rezone property that's located at 8390 Featherline Road from Agricultural District to B2 with a conditional use permit to allow for the battery storage site. The star shows the approximate location. Here's the site itself, and if we will notice, it's just to the north and also to the west of the existing substation that Encore has. It shows the surrounding zoning. And as mentioned, the applicant intends to develop a battery storage facility on the property. The purpose of that storage facility is to help with enhancing power during times of brownout, or to prevent brownouts and blackouts, to make sure that the system is more reliable as Encore is operating. As I understand, and we do have a representative here tonight that can speak more about the operation, but as I understand it, this facility during times of peak and access power that would be stored in that system, and then when there's a need to use that power later on, that power can come back onto the grid and be used by Encore. And this allows for more efficient operation, and also very importantly allows for power to stay on and be restored more quickly. The map here shows the layout for the site. The battery storage facilities are here with that arrow showing there. They will also have a power substation that will allow the power to come from the substation into the battery, and then battery storage system in reverse. They also have 2 detention ponds on the site as well to meet detention pond requirements. And then they also have a vegetative buffer on 3 sides, such that this site is going to be shielded away from surrounding properties, especially that would be to the west and that would be to the north. And then in addition to that buffering, there's fencing that's hugging around this site as well. And let's see if I can clear that. Good. And that's an aerial of the site, an image of what the battery storage systems will look like, and then some comprehensive plan stuff. And this is consistent with the comprehensive plan items, so I won't dwell too much on that. This is a view of the subject property looking northwest, a view of the subject property looking west, a view of the surrounding property to the south, the Encore substation. All notifications have been made with 1 written response in support of this request so far. It shows the notification extents, and then the alternatives that the council has. And the recommendation from staff is that this be approved as presented for the various reasons that we mentioned before in terms of the benefits. Also, it's worth noting that this project will have to comply with fire codes, with the National Electrical Code and other codes. The fire department is currently saying as long as those requirements are met, they don't have any objections to the proposed use. Also, as we demonstrated earlier, there's landscape screening all across the property, the buffer area particularly to the north and to the west. And so, again, we're recommending approval of the conditional use permit for B2. The Planning and Zoning Commission heard this case on April the 3rd, and by a vote of 6-1, voted to recommend approval of this request as presented. Commissioner Jones did state that he had some concerns about the project's viability and was concerned about it providing enough electricity to accommodate citizens of Killeen. And as I mentioned, the applicant representative is present, and then we also did, I believe, have a presentation that they provided as well.
Thank you, Mr. Revelle. Could you have them to come up, please? Good evening, sir. How are you doing?
I'm good. How you doing? Thank you
I'm
for having
doing
me.
fine. Before you go into your presentation, one of the questions that was asked by a resident was the safety of it. If lightning strike the battery, it blow up, how would it affect? And if it does blow up, what is the pros and, there's no pros or cons with it, what is the analysis of damage? How would that affect the residents in that area?
Yeah, definitely. So we have a whole presentation here, but it seems like safety is probably the top concern here.
It should be.
And it is for us as well. You know, the way we build these and keep building them is to make them safe. We work with the fire departments through all approvals. So each container that we have here will have, you know, an abundance of different redundancies to make sure everything's okay, you know, at all times. So we got fire detections, we have alarms, we have explosion preventions through ventilation, we have emergency stops. They're non-walk-in containers, so you never open them. They just sit there. You know, lockable disconnects, you're never going to go inside of them. We got redundancy of features as well, so you have 2 sets of smoke alarms, gas detectors as well. And then to keep moving on here, so the technology has moved really quickly, obviously, but in recent years, the safety around it has been paramount, and the certifications required for it has been paramount. So UL 9540A is the test procedure. They test each cell, each battery cell, each module in each unit separately to make sure that they will not propagate. So if something happens to one container, it's in one container. It doesn't move to the other containers, and that is confirmed by UL 9540A test results. They will literally light these on fire in testing and see exactly what happens to them. To make sure that they can be installed, they have to pass UL 9540. There are some other, you know, codes listed up there, NFPA 855. This is an ability to show, you know, how you're going to install this, how everything's going to be safe. When we are installing a project, we work with the fire department on training, what you're supposed to do, how it's supposed to happen. If anything were to go wrong as a catastrophe, it's in one container. You don't open the container, you don't do anything to the container. It sits right there, it burns itself down. We come in with the crane, we pull it out, and it's gone. There's no, you know, explosion. There's no propagation to the rest of them. One container, and that's it. You know, we work extensively with the fire departments to make sure they understand what's going on, that we understand what's going on, and, you know, we wouldn't be out here building these if they weren't safe. You know, we wouldn't be able to build multiple times. So, yeah, safety is paramount. I mean, that is our highest focus, and we understand that is yours as well, so.
But you do understand that you have the expert in this field, but residents and council, we're asking questions because this is not our expertise. So
Yeah.
Safety for individuals that do live directly in that area is a big concern.
Yeah.
So, and I thank you for going into detail with that. You have several council members that have questions. I'm not sure if it's for Mr. Revelle or you, but just stand by. Councilmember Boyd.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. In reviewing this proposed battery storage site, I've noted a few things that I believe are worth mentioning. This was approved or recommended by the city staff. P&Z did pass this 6-1. The project contributes to the reliability of our local electrical infrastructure. The site would complement the existing substation, being a relating project. There's adequate screening and landscaping that will be established per what I'm understanding in this proposal. And the site would be in close proximity to the future constructed fire station or EOC. It was just a mention of redundancies, alarms, detectors, following city, national, and local building codes, and the fire department having involvement in training. I do have some questions. In relation to environmental hazards, would the battery storage site produce any form of emissions or chemical waste?
No, sir.
Okay. What mitigation plans would be in place to reduce or prevent any form of catastrophe? I believe you just went over that. The other question I had was what type of screening would be installed around the perimeter?
Usually we'll do a fence to make sure no one can get inside. Obviously, we can do it with a wall as well, a retaining wall if that's preferred. It's really dependent on what's preferred in the county. And then, some trees around that as well, just to block it out visually. But again, it goes right next to the substation and looks pretty similar to what the substation looks like.
Understood. And my personal recommendation would be have a solid screening around it where you can't see through there and where it's an eyesore, potentially. The other two questions I had, when would construction begin and how long will construction continue on a project like this?
Yeah, so right now our construction's planned to start, you can see here, we would plan to start it, in Q3 of 2024, so late 2024. It would probably last 8 to 10 months. Could be quicker than that, but construction would probably be 8 to 10 months from Q3 2024.
Sometime next year.
Yep.
Okay. Last question. Will the fire department, this is for Chief, if you would, will the fire department need to acquire any new form of equipment to fight a potential fire at the site?
Good evening, Mayor, Council. The lithium-ion world is an emerging one, and so we've been working with Black Mountain, and additionally, even at our Chiefs conferences, Tesla is out there, GM is out there, and they're providing training as well. Right now, much like just what we had not too long ago assisting with Nolanville, where a gasoline tanker was fully engulfed, the strategy was to let it burn. And right now, with what we've seen here, with all the fire protection that is in place, knowing that these are modularized, the technology and the strategy is going to be to let it burn itself out as opposed to trying to fight the tactics, so we don't suspect that there's going to be any additional firefighting equipment needed.
Understood. Thank you for that. And the other question just came to me. Should one of these units, if you will, explode and it burns, my personal concern will be the chemical or the hazard of what's in the air from the burning. How much of an issue might that be if it is an issue, in fact?
Chemical release is not a concern for these batteries more than would be in a regular fire.
Okay, and the fire chief is verifying that.
Yes, sir, we agree that lithium-ion battery fires, the gases dissipate very close proximity to where the actual fire is. The hazard outside of that immediate area is not a concern.
Sure, thank you for that. It may seem like I'm just upfront in support of this, but the reality is when we had a previous chemical plant proposal come before us, which is in the business park, I was highly skeptical. And as I learned about the mitigation efforts and the construction efforts and all those other things, it becomes real that it's about safety as number one. And so thank you for explaining those things to us. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Mayor Pro Tem.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. To add to what Mr. Boyd was saying here is that I believe that the mitigation that you do, that you take for safety is a high one, because you kind of got to think, if this were to happen, who has to pay the bill? Who are we coming to? And if you put that in our community and it devastates our community, I think that just the business analysis of it all, it doesn't work itself out. So with that, I got a couple of questions before I make a final statement on this. Is the proximity to, we see the presentation and we can see where it is, but as far as setback from people that live around there, the residents, is that enough in your estimation of putting this there?
Yeah, So that's what that testing will show you, safe distances for everything. We take those distances, we maintain those distances and more every single time. An update to this site plan here is actually, I have a new site plan that I can show you guys if you're interested. It keeps the batteries, even farther. There will actually be no facilities where you see through here and here. These won't be there anymore due to new updates. So, everything will start back there, and the substation, our interconnection will now be down there due to some updates with Encore that we've been working with ongoing. So even if it were to look like that, my answer would still be the same. Yes, we maintain those distances, but for everyone's purposes here, we'll actually be even farther back than what's shown here.
Okay, and along with that, have you set up a development like this in the past? Where's another one of these actually currently operating?
Yeah. Thank you. They kind of show these, they're popping up really all over right now. The benefits that they provide to the grid are known, and they really set up right next to a substation. Here's one in Crosby that we've built ourselves. Here's another one in Texas that we have here. You can see this is really similar to what
That looks like a drawing. But, okay, all right, go ahead.
Yeah, so this is really similar to what we'd be looking like here. With the containers, you have some inverters and transformers to convert the energy to what is usable by the grid, and then you're right next to a substation. So yes, we built them before. If City Council would love to go see one, walk through one, we'd be happy to set that up.
Okay, and finally, I think you said something there, you said benefit. So risk assessment, the benefit, does it outweigh the risk? Is there a risk in this? I think there is absolutely a risk. There's a risk to everything, but that benefit that you're getting with the risk that you're taking that is offset by the safety procedures that you put in place. Okay. I think that this so far that you have established that the tradition or the history of anything like this happening, and we had a citizen speak about West. I was actually engaged with the West, the mass cow that happened there. And I don't think that this measures up to the same. I don't think that all things exploding are the same. And I think that there are some things that were brought up in the investigation in West that show that there may have been some problems there. I don't see any here. And so with that, with the risk assessment, I'm in favor of you doing it because the benefit that it helps our city. Now, one last thing that I did hear come up at the end is about money. Where am I missing that we are on the hook for this?
You guys will be paying nothing for this. This comes fully financed by us.
Property.
Yeah, but at the end, I think Commissioner Jones made reference to something about a waste of money. And I was just wanting to make sure I was trying to figure out where was the waste coming from. And if we're not paying for it, if you're wasting money, that's an Encore decision. But long as it's safe, I'm in favor of it.
Yeah.
So thank you.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Councilmember Alvarez.
Thank you, Mayor. I think Mayor Pro Tem kind of hit a couple of highlights that I was going to bring up. The power substation's already there, so I don't have an issue with the location. I do live not far from here as well, and I do remember, a lot of us probably remember here in this city when we had what we referred to as snowvid, and a lot of us were without power for days. So anything that Encore can do to help stabilize our grid and help us from potentially having to go through that again, I think is a win. I do like that they located the detention pond where they did. I think it's going to provide an additional buffer from the west side of the development and that south side. The only thing that I would like to see different, in my opinion, would be instead of the proposed 6-foot board-on-board fence, maybe a 8-foot masonry wall all the way around. And y'all have a couple of other local facilities, one actually right here downtown that has a masonry wall around the substation. I think it, at least for the location of it, with the residents around it, I think it will make it not only feel safer, but look better and probably last you guys longer as far as maintenance goes. So that would be my only additional comment to the design that you guys have provided.
Understood. Thank you.
Councilmember Adams.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. second. Okay, still on. Lithium batteries are a great backup to the normal power grid. I have quite a few residents where it's going to be are against it. So I don't know if it's before next week or soon. We have to figure out a way if this is the right thing to do to convince them or not. And if not, where else could this go? So how many other locations have residents? I mean, because I noticed the two locations you have there are no residents around that. You have any other places that have, or at least you couldn't tell by the,
Sorry, these locations here?
yes.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Oh, I'm not seeing residential areas.
Yes.
At least I'm not, I don't know if anybody else is. Okay, but at the same time, we gotta show this, if, we gotta
It's
screen it for
Yarrow
where the residents are.
It's Yarrow Ranch.
It's not obvious. And have you had any other issues with any other sites?
We build these in more densely populated areas than what we're looking at here. We build them in areas fully approved and with neighborhoods on the other side of the walls. So, understood the concern with people close by. Like we said, that's our concern as well, and we keep that in mind while we're developing these things because we're the ones putting our names on it. We're the ones who are, as you say, footing the bill for whatever happens here. So, yes, we build them in locations much more dense than what we're looking at here.
And this may be one of those things where we definitely need to get out to the public to convince and make comfortable, because even if we feel comfortable, if those 7,000 people plus or minus that live in Yarrow Ranch and on the other side don't feel comfortable, this is a lesson in futility.
Yeah.
Thanks.
We can take that and maybe try to provide some more examples of other areas where that happens as well.
Thank you.
Councilwoman Cobb.
Hi, sir.
Hi.
Good evening, good evening. On any given day, that's what I base my thoughts for the future or what's going on. In any given day, what's the worst something that can happen? We won't have the masonry wall according to this. We got our safety things, but on any given day, what's the worst something could happen?
The worst thing that would happen here, and is what's shown in the testing, is that a container would burn itself to the ground. I mean, that's what they show in worst case scenarios. That's what the testing will show, and that's what the fire department will approve when they review the testing, is that there would be a fire and it would burn itself to the ground. Once it's safe, no one's going anywhere near it, no one's going close to it, no one's putting water on it. You let it burn itself down, it contains itself, and when it's done, we safely disconnect it, remove it. That is the worst case scenario that we plan for.
Okay. I see the safety is in line. I understand with the fire department, but I'm always interested in any given day if anything else would go on or if anything else could happen. Because the safety of those residents in District 3 and Yarrow Ranch, Onion Road, Love, or anywhere is most important. So I want us to think beyond the box and think on any given day, what's the most safest fence, the safest whatever you need for this to take place. And that's how I would like for you to look at that site and look at your plans when you look at it any given day. Thank you, sir.
Yes, ma'am. Understood.
Councilwoman Gonzalez.
Thank you. So when we're talking about this emerging market and the fact that you guys, this technology provides additional energy for stability for our grid. When we're talking to our citizens, can you explain maybe a little bit more the why for them, the benefit for it from their perspective, not in the technical sense as it relates to Encore and the grid? Can you help us with that?
Yeah,
Thank you.
Well, I think the biggest piece here is when we'll go cover a couple of them, but first one is congestion. So With all the renewables coming online, renewables are an intermittent resource. What we've done and what the grid was built for our entire life was coal, which is a constant resource. It can give energy at a constant rate, always. The sun only shines when it's shining, and the wind only blows when it's winning, when it's windy. So, as those things are happening, and if it's really sunny, really windy together, there's energy that's going to be wasted. That's not going to go anywhere. You put the battery right next to the substation, that energy comes in, there's extra energy, charges the battery, the sun goes down, you have the energy coming out right there. That's the first thing on congestion. The second thing, which I think the citizens are even more concerned about, is blackouts and brownouts. On top of this intermittency, like I said, the grid wasn't built to handle the renewables in that way. They were meant to handle a constant source of energy. So the reason the brownouts and blackouts happen are due to that intermittency, going up and down and up and down and up and down. And the battery right next to the substation is a technology that can't be duplicated. It can respond faster than any other technology out there. It has a 1 second less than a 1 second response time if they need the energy on the grid. If something happens and everything's going down, they can dispatch the battery in less than a second to fill that need, which will then allow the grid to operate as it was.
And when you say that in layman's terms, the power will remain on.
The
throughout
power
all
will
this.
remain on.
Right.
Blackouts and brownouts, this is what the grid needs to bring more renewables on. The renewables are already coming. What the grid needs to remain on is a backup source to help them there. So that's what this provides.
Right. And so with this, as far as if your facility is approved, what about subcontracting opportunities for local businesses? Is this something that you bring in your own crew, or is this something that's required where we can bid out locally for local opportunities for construction?
For construction, I mean, local crews in construction are always better. They know the areas. It's easier for us. We're not at the point of picking our contractors right now. But if that's something that the council would be interested in, then we could definitely look at having, local labor for certain parts or whatever needs to be done to provide the additional benefit to the community.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Councilmember Boyd.
Thank you. And this is one last question. And I appreciate you discussing the grid needs, right? We understand there's a need for the grid, but the size of the container, what's the average size of a container?
They all vary, but let's say it's a 20-foot shipping container, like what you see on the back of a truck. That's kind of what it would look like, 20-foot ISO container.
Got it. Thank you.
Sir, how often do you do maintenance on that?
Yeah, so similar to a substation, it'll be an unmanned, there won't be someone there, running it. It's constantly manned remotely, but probably once or twice a year, there'll be someone out there maintaining it as needed, but it's constantly monitored, 24/7, every single second of the day. We have sensors in every single battery that's out there, so if anything is awry at any time, that's automatically notified to the operators.
Is it possible for you to share your PowerPoint with the council that we can, and the media to our communication, not us, I'm sorry, saying the residents, to share?
This presentation?
Yes, sir.
Of course.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So we can put it out to the residents. I think by next Tuesday, when we do this, vote on this, I feel more comfortable with giving the residents the opportunity to go through the slides. If they have any question, they can reach out to city staff or their council representative. Yes, sir. We have one more, Councilwoman Gonzalez.
Thank you. I just had another quick question. So Chief Kubinski mentioned the safety of the fire, and you said that they contain themselves, right? So if there is an explosion or it burns, we let it burn. What happens to the fumes with that? Is there containment for that? What does that process look like? Because with regards to toxic fumes that are associated with this.
Yeah, so the smoke is going to be smoking like it would in any other fire. The gases that people would be worried about dissipate very quickly, and that is also included in the reports and in the spacing. So, in the worst case scenario that we're talking about where this happens, no one's close enough to have any issue with gases. They
And that
dissipate.
was my question. So there would not be like a major evacuation if one of these
No.
things were to happen and
No.
there was an explosion.
No one needs to do anything.
There would not be that risk. Thank you.
All right. Councilwoman Cobb.
Mayor, I like that idea you had about showing a video for the customers and everyone around so that they can see it. How soon can you have it?
A video.
The presentation,
Councilwoman Cobb has the floor. Continue,
Yeah, the
ma'am.
presentation and what she was stating, so that the constituents and the persons around can see exactly. I know you all are talking about the PowerPoint, but could you show a little video?
What kind of video would you like to
A
see?
video showing how it actually worked. You know how you see it in action? Is
Councilwoman
that
Cobb,
possible?
I don't mean to correct you, but that is,
Doesn't sound right.
no. I think that that's something that maybe you should talk to him and meet
Okay, we
our
can do that.
communication director, because it may not be something feasible.
sounds good.
And he's being put on the spot. But you can't continue. You still have 4 minutes and
Well,
32
no,
seconds.
we gotta get out of here. We're not gonna use it on me coming up with 4 minutes. I wanna see you
Yeah, I'm happy
afterwards.
to be here.
Okay,
Don't worry.
All right.
I'm not running anywhere.
okay, don't go anywhere.
Thank you, sir. Thank you both. And according to our governing standards and expectation, at 7 o'clock every 2 hours, we have to take a break, not for our council, but also for our staff. So we're going to take a 5-minute break, and we'll be back. All right, I'm going to call the meeting back to order. Madam Secretary.
PH 23033, hold a public hearing and consider a request submitted by Quintero Engineering LLC on behalf of Curtis Emmons, case number Z2312, to rezone approximately 1.6 acres out of the Moses T. Martin survey, abstract number 963, from A, Agricultural District, to AR1, Agricultural Single Family Residential District, to B3, Local Business District. The subject property is generally located on the west right-of-way of Tremere Road and east right-of-way of Kelly Lane, Killeen, Texas.
Thank you, Madam Secretary. Mr. Rubel, welcome back.
Thank you, Mayor, Council Pro Tem, and Council and City Manager. This request is to rezone property from Agricultural District and Agricultural Single Family or Residential District to B3. The location of the property is noted by the star on the map. Here's an aerial showing the property, bordered by Tremere Road and Kelly Lane. This is the surrounding zoning. If approved, a commercial warehouse building will be built on the property. It's consistent with the comprehensive plan and land use requirements. Further, several comprehensive plan recommendations as noted on the slide. Review the subject property looking west. Review the surrounding properties to the north. All notification requirements have been met to date. 0 written responses have been received associated with this request. Notification boundary. And then the 3 alternatives that the council will have next week on this decision. And again, the staff is recommending approval to rezone this property to B3. And Planning and Zoning Commission heard the case on April 3rd and recommended by a vote of 7-0 for approval of the case.
Thank you. No questions. Madam Secretary.
PH 23034, hold a public hearing and consider an ordinance on the substantial amendment to annual action plans for program years 2018, 2020, 2021, and 2022 to provide CDBG funding for construction and related costs for the senior center and improvements to the Rosa Herford Community Center.
Thank you, Madam Secretary. And ma'am, we are so happy to see you. Mrs. Hayward.
Good evening, Mayor and council members, city manager. Yes, we're presenting information on a substantial amendment for the annual action plans from program years 2018, 20, 21, and 22. Okay. So however much you want me to go through this, word for word, slide for slide,
We would like the highlights of.
All right.
Yes, ma'am, because the background. Yes, ma'am.
All righty, thank you.
If you can give an overview, please.
Okay, sure. This is just a substantial amendment, and it occurs when there is a significant change in the funding that was allocated initially for CDBG activities. The grant funds remain from previously eligible projects that were completed without utilizing their entire grant amount, and/or projects were reprioritized. CDAC met on April 6th of 2023 to discuss the substantial amendment in accordance with HUD's rules and the Citizens Participation Plan regarding amendments. The findings are to maintain compliance with HUD CDBG regulations for expenditure, enable the city to move forward with the senior center. The reprogramming of completed and reprioritized CDBG funded projects are listed as follows. These are projects from those program years and the amount of money that is being reprogrammed. The total is $795,093.73. Alternatives just don't hold the public hearing, or the second alternative is to hold the public hearing and consider that substantial amendment for those annual action plans and program fiscal years, and provide that funding for the senior center and community center. And of course, we're recommending the second alternative, to hold that public hearing and get those improvements done at the community center for the senior center.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you. Thank you. Madam Secretary, resolutions. Council, you have 5 minutes to speak 2 times. Madam Secretary.
RS 23076, consider a memorandum resolution awarding bid number 2327, Killeen Community Center and Senior Center Expansion and Renovation to HCS Incorporated in the amount of $7,416,835.
Thank you. Mr. Revelle.
Yes, ma'am, and I also have the city engineer, Mr. Zager, present, as well as the executive director for Park and Recreation Services, Ms. Snook, available to assist with this.
But they can come up in case
Yes, ma'am.
council have some questions.
Yes,
Mr.
ma'am.
Snook, our Recreation Service Director. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am. Okay, so this project basically will allow for the start and completion of the Killeen Community Center and Senior Center Expansion Project. As noted here, it involves the remodeling of existing floor space to include the senior center within the Rosa Hereford Community Center. In addition to that, there are several project alternatives that's included in this bid: the pickleball courts, the covered outdoor seating, and the 2 other things mentioned there. Bids were received on March the 16th. Those bids were open, and 2 bids as noted here by the 2 contractors. And we're basically recommending approval of the bid, of the low bid, and you see the alternatives that the council has. Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Revelle. And Ms. Snook, thank you and your department. You came in, you picked up the ball, and you have been moving it down the field. And I thank you and your department for everything you have done. Thank you, Mr. Revelle. Madam Secretary.
RS 23077, consider a memorandum resolution authorizing a professional services agreement for the engineering, construction, observation services of the Killeen Community Center and Senior Center Renovation and Addition Project with MRB Group, PC, in the amount of $121,500.
Thank you, Madam Secretary. Mr. Revelle.
Yes, ma'am. So these are services that will be in support of the project we just mentioned. their construction, observation, and monitoring services. And as you see in that third bullet, these services are required to provide that support. It's also associated with CDBG requirements as well. MRB has been selected consultant for the services at $121,500. Council has two alternatives, and we're recommending that you authorize the city manager to execute the professional service agreement with MRB to provide the observation services associated with the Killeen Community Center and Senior Center Expansion and Renovation Project.
Thank you, Mr. Revelle, but did you go into detail why they were selected? Maybe I missed that part.
I'm going to ask our city engineer to provide that response.
Oh, okay, thank you.
Good evening, Madam Mayor and fellow
Good
council
evening,
members. We were seeking out to have some support that has more of an architectural background that we do, they know that I do in engineering. We just don't have the bandwidth, we don't have the staff that can manage the hours that are needed for this project. If I did divert some of our engineers to manage this, it would slow down some of the other capital projects. So those major roadways would be delayed, and we didn't want to do that.
Thank you, because we do have a lot of projects out there, and I thank you and your team for all the hard work. Councilmember Adams.
Just a quick question, I think maybe for Mr. Cagle. As the 120, is the money for this, is it included also in that, in the 7 million? Or is this a completely separate allocation?
No, this is separate, but we have a budget. It is budgeted.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you. Councilmember Boyd.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Just for the citizens and the council's edification, can you kind of talk about what the monitoring and observation entails?
So during construction, it allows a staff member or having a consultant be on site. For the grant requirements, there has to be daily inspections to find out what is actually being done, have those daily reports, what the contractor's going to be working on, who's on site, what equipment, are they part of the, the certified type of personnel that they need on the job. In addition, they're there to help help answer any questions that may arise during construction, support if there is that we need to get the architect that designed the project forward the proper paperwork, create the proper paperwork, and hopefully resolve some of the issues, or if we have to promote to a change order, we get that process all done. So this consultant's going to be being on site, being that representative, but also helping us support, answer questions, go through the process, and making sure that we have all the proper paperwork and background that we need.
Gotcha. So what I've gathered from that is, like you mentioned, on-site daily inspections, compliance, resolving issues, and processing change orders.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, Mr. Revelle. Madam Secretary.
RS 23078, consider a memorandum resolution approving the appointment of a chief of police.
The moment we have been waiting for, right here.
Great day in Killeen, Texas today.
Ms. Barr.
Good evening, Council, Mayor, and City Manager. The item before you, as you know, is the appointment and the selection of Chief of Police for the City of Killeen. I'm going to give you a quick little background. There's a lot of dates and a lot of things that we did before we got here, but on January the 27th, the position of the Chief of Police for the City of Killeen was vacant, or became vacant, I'm sorry. And then on February the 13th, Chief Kimball signed an agreement to stay on as Chief of Police interim with us for a period no more than 12 weeks until we were able to recruit a new Chief of Police. Then on February the 1st, the city signed an agreement with a company called Public Sector Search and Consulting to perform a nationwide executive search. And we were able to, they were able to speak with several stakeholders in the city and created a brochure for us. And then the firm recruited 20 applicants, or 20 candidates. On March the 28th, the city management and human resource, we met with the consultant, and we narrowed the selections down to 5 candidates. The candidates were interviewed with 3 panels. First, a city management panel, and then we also had a member of the Killeen Fraternal Order of Police Employees panel, and then another panel of community leaders that were selected by you. So the finalists participated in a city tour on April the 13th, and then the next day they did an interview, and then we had a little reception for them in the evening. The city manager, based on all the feedback that he received from all of the panel members, Mr. Cagle selected Pedro Pete, we're going to call him Pete because that's what he likes to be called, Lopez, but we'll call him Chief Lopez, as the City of Killeen's Chief of Police for the City of Killeen. Mr. Lopez comes to Killeen with 35 years of law enforcement experience. Although he's originally from New York, he came to Texas as fast as he could. He started his law enforcement career in 1987 as a correctional officer with the Texas Department of Corrections. Then he served as a deputy jailer, and then he joined the Houston Police Department in May of 1991. He promoted through all the ranks while he was at the Houston PD, and then his last rank was as an assistant chief. For the last 2 years, he has been serving as the chief of police for the Houston Independent School District. Let me give you a little background about Chief Lopez. Mr. Lopez received his master's in arts of criminology from the University of Houston in Clear Lake. He also holds a bachelor's of science in organizational leadership from Mountain State University in Beckley, West Virginia. His experience encompasses knowledge of proficiency of gang resistance, education, organizational development, budgeting, peer support programs, internal affairs, robbery division, tactical unit, narcotics division, jail division, and patrol. He also is a member of several professional affiliations. I'm only going to name a few. He's been the South Central Vice President of the National Latino Police Officers Association. He's also been on the 51st session of the American Leadership Forum. He was also a former president of the Houston Police Department Hispanic Officer of the Year Committee, and he served on several other committees that are also in your staff report. He has formal training as of 2021. He graduated from the Texas New Chief Development Class, 2020 graduate of the 80th session of the Senior Management Institute for Police Command Staff Leadership Series, FBI National Academy, active shooter, response protocols. He's also FEMA Incident Command trained and advanced also in gang investigations. So you have two alternatives. It's either to approve or not to approve City Manager's appointment of Pedro Lopez as the City of Killeen's Chief of Police. And staff recommends the approval of the Chief of Police. And he's here this evening with us in case you guys want to ask any questions or if I can answer any questions. Yes.
Thank you, ma'am. Sir, you can stand up, please, because I know they probably have questions. I want to say something. Just want to go on record that his lovely wife is here tonight also. Welcome to Killeen. Thank you once again. Sir, would you like to say something before the questions come your direction?
I just want to say thank you all, Mayor and council members and City Manager, for even considering me for this position. It's an honor, and I look forward to hopefully getting approved next week so I can start the hard work of working with this administration, the community, and officers of the Killeen Police Department to make this community safer.
Yes, sir. I just want to give you a heads up. Your item tonight was number 13. But when you take that oath and you start working here, you'll be here all night. We just baptizing you a little bit tonight, but you'll get the full effect when you get hired full time.
I'm used to it with my current position with the HISD Board of Trustees, we go to 11:30, 12 o'clock at night. So
We don't try to make that a practice.
I'm
We
happy
just
for
letting
that,
you know,
ma'am.
we don't make that a practice. All right, sir, you can stand by. Mayor Pro Tem.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Yeah, we won't hold you that long. We don't typically last that long. But first of all, how you doing, Chief? You've been really busy lately, so I haven't had a chance to speak to you. I came out to the meet and greet, but people were congregated around you so much, which is an impression of how impressive you are. Your resume kind of speaks that as well. And so I just got a few questions because I was going to ask you that night, so I'll just go ahead and ask them tonight. First of all, how familiar are you with Killeen?
Well, since 1987, I got out the active duty in the Army, and I moved to Houston, so I've been coming back and forth.
Wait. You were in the Army before you started all this?
Yeah.
Man, you don't look old enough. I'm telling you, there's no way. When I saw the whole resume, I was like, nah, he's not. And then I saw you stand up. So, hey, great job, man. But, yeah, so go ahead. I'm sorry.
So since 1987, I got out, went to the reserves, and I was in the reserve unit in Houston. So from 1987 till 2011, when I retired from the reserves, I was going back and forth to Fort Hood for summer camps, and then after 9/11, they deployed us to Fort Hood. My unit went from the 321st MI Battalion in Austin. We were stationed here in Fort Hood for a year, so I have a lot of experience with the Killeen community.
Okay, okay. And as we've grown, and I know you're aware that we've changed over the years, have you been able to keep up with the overall temperament and, you know, just how the city has evolved?
Well, when I retired in 2011,
Yeah.
I haven't been back to Killeen since then.
I understand.
So I've been watching it recently throughout my research,
Mhm.
and I noticed that there's been a lot of great improvements, you know, especially between the relationship between the community and, the city and the Fort Hood, because that's a very important part in making
Mm-hmm.
sure that this city, you know, works with our military and with our communities to make sure that our military members are served
Yes, sir.
as professionally as possible.
And as you mentioned, we have made some strides, but there are some challenges as well as we continue to grow. And in your estimation, what is one of the biggest challenges that you see here in Killeen?
Well, during my talk with the community, that's when my eyes got really wide open.
Yes, sir.
When I thought it was more on violent crime, but I think the major complaints from the citizens and from the other panels was gang violence and narcotics activity.
Okay.
So, and all the social issues such as homelessness and issues like that.
Okay, okay. And, well, I guess you kind of answered that already. But again, it's a pleasure to finally meet you and your lovely wife. And thank you for considering Killeen as a place that you would want to call home. That is the other question I wanted to speak. Long-term. Now, I know you look young, but that's a lot of experience. How much can we get out of you? I'm just going to be straight up with you. How much can we get out of you as far as because this is it's labor intensive. And I know Mayor's over here shut me down saying I'm putting you on the spot.
I'm looking at legal.
But no, this is a question that you can answer in your estimation. Is this something that you see yourself being with us for a while and being able to fix some of the problems that we have?
I will continue to serve as long as I'm producing and doing good things by the community and
That's
this
fair enough.
administration.
Okay, well, thank you very much and welcome to Killeen.
And with saying that, you do have an excellent staff. Assistant Chief Gearhart and the police officers that are serving us now, they're top of the line. And their loyalty to the city and to you, you couldn't ask for a better team to be on.
Thank you. It's always great to have a great team behind you.
Yes, sir. Councilmember Boyd, he was talking to Cobb.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Good evening, Chief.
How you doing, sir?
Chief Lopez. When we met, first thing you said was, "You look familiar, you look familiar." And about 3/4 into the conversation, I mentioned that I was a council member. Then it all came together for you.
Correct. The Astros hat threw me off.
The Astros hat, that's right. We had a good conversation, though. We talked about gang violence, we talked about police presence, we talked about council safety at the meetings, as well as gang activity. Crime prevention, excuse me. And so I do hope that those things do remain a priority for our entire community during that time. But I do look forward to your appointment.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you, Council.
Thank you, Mayor. I just, want to say congratulations, and, I think we're all impressed as a community with your resume and stuff, so I just want to warn you that expectation is pretty high. I mean, the standard that has been set here, and all I've heard from the community and all that is how excited they are that you've taken that responsibility. I mean, being a chief and getting back to our Mayor Pro Tem, how long you're going to be here, I can tell you that job that you're doing, and you know this better than me, it's such a stressful job. You can only do so many years, and so I don't think anybody expects you to be here 20, 30 years because maybe him, you might as well forget it because, you'd be stressed out. But it's two of our toughest jobs, it's this police chief and our city manager, and I know that gets a lot of attention every time we as a council in the city has a vacancy and we got to go through the process and hire somebody. And I've been through several of them. And I just want to say that this is probably one of our smoother ones. I mean, I think everybody has come on board. I mean, we've hired some great people in the past, not to put them down, but you have to go through a little bit of challenges. And, with you, I haven't had anybody, bickering or, it's been a very smooth process. And a lot of that credit I want to get to Mrs. Barr, because you've mastered this. I think that, through all the hirings, and so, and our city manager, I know the staff has done a great job in filling those important roles that we have as a city. And I just want to congratulate all of you guys for doing such a great job, and just welcome to our city. And we're glad to have you and your wife here.
Thank you.
Councilmember Gonzalez.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. So I share all the sentiments that they have as well, but just to let you know, the citizens, having that opportunity to be able to meet the potential candidates one-on-one, I got to talk to my constituents in District 1, and they were so excited about you in this position. And then talking to the constituents out there as we're having these different events, they're really happy to have you on board, and they're really excited about the potential and the fresh new ideas that you're going to have for our community. So just, I hope that also helps you understand that it's not just us, right? The whole entire community right now is very, very excited about the potential you bring. So welcome.
Thank you.
Yes.
Councilwoman Cobb.
Good evening, sir, and welcome to you and your wife. I hope you enjoy this city. I hope that you find that this city offers you all the joys and even some discomforts while you're here. But if there's anything that you need, please always feel free to seek the council.
Thank you.
Councilmember Adam.
Good evening, sir. Welcome to Kalina, you and your lovely wife. The only thing I got from constituents is we better approve this and not mess it up. So look forward to next week. Thanks.
Thank you.
Councilmember Alvarez, you're the only one have not spoken. Please, the mic is yours, sir.
Thank you, Mayor. I'm not going to sit here and reiterate what everybody's already said. I'm excited to see Killeen's first, to my knowledge, first Latino chief of police. So welcome. I'm born and raised here in Killeen, so I think it's going to be a great place for you and your family, for you and your wife. And like Ms. Cobb said, anything that we can do for you to help make this transition smoother, don't hesitate to reach out.
Thank you so much. I already have a meeting set up with the the LULAC committee this year, so in June sometime.
Awesome. Thank you.
Thank you. Sir, it's not how long you be here, it's the impact that you leave here.
Yes, ma'am.
So you have a great team that's supporting you. You show them respect, they'll respect you. And this council as a whole, we support you. And thank you, Ms. Evilbar and Mr. Cagle and your staff. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Council members' request for future agenda items. Council, you have 5 minutes to speak 2 times. Madam Secretary.
RQ 23003, discuss Indigov products and Rept Incorporated for solutions to improve engagement with constituents.
And council, just a reminder, this is a request for an agenda item. It's not discussion. The person that brought it will tell you. If you need clarification, please ask him or her, but future agenda items. Councilmember Adams.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Mayor. This came up after a discussion with the city manager and some presentations I saw at National League of Cities. These 2 vendors specifically had offered to come and do a presentation about constituent management systems. And that was one of the budget priorities that was listed. And so to take this through a process was trying to get council's permission to bring that and put on the agenda for them to come and do a quick presentation. They are not promised to be the company if we decided to do that. Just want to educate us on what's out there and what systems there are.
Thank you. Can I get a motion of direction?
Madam Mayor, I move that we place this on.
Mayor Pro Tem.
Oh, go ahead.
Oh, Mayor Pro Tem?
Madam Mayor, I do have a question clarification before that takes place. Just exactly what is constituent management, I think you said?
Yeah, it's the acronym CMS is also content management systems, but in the civic world, it's constituent management. It's systems where council members and staff can interact with constituents and process. We have,
So is it communications, is it a communications? And
it's an IT and communications
Okay,
piece,
it's
yeah.
communications between constituents in the city.
Yes.
Got it, thank you.
It's a system.
With that, I make a motion to approve.
Councilmember Boyd,
Second.
all in favor to approve moving this item, sorry about that, RQ-23-003 on the future agenda? All in favor, yes. All opposed, no. Did you have a question, Councilwoman? Okay. Motion of direction, move 7-0. Madam Secretary, whenever you're ready.
RQ 23004, ARPA funding plan update.
Councilmember Adams and Gonzalez.
Okay, this was,
I thought we had the staff doing this. I'm sorry, I thought we had already requested the staff to do this. Maybe I missed it.
this, I think this is what's going to
Mr.
be
Cagle,
that.
I'm sorry.
I don't know if, we discussed it some time back, and we've incorporated it into the quarterly financial report. So we did it a month, 6 weeks ago, something like that. So,
Okay.
Okay.
But I didn't know if this was, you want another one before that, or you want it monthly, or?
What this was, just to see what, all the funding that's been out there and the status of each of the grantees, where they are, if we're tracking that. That's what the additional, that's the additional information.
Can we just put it on the next
I'm
agenda?
okay with that too, yeah.
So, can you just bring us back an update?
Sure.
Okay.
Yes.
Or can you send an email that you update? So, yeah,
Whatever the council desires, we can do it.
okay. So, Councilwoman Gonzalez, you were on that too. If you want to make a motion or direction for, I'm just,
My understanding, and just let's to be clear, is that they would like an update on the recipients of the grants and where we're at, just to give the citizens, the community, an update on the progress that they've made, where they're at, and what might be pending for them.
okay.
And that could, maybe Kate, I would think maybe be appropriate, I don't know.
Mr. Cagle?
Yeah, so I understand the request now. It is specific to the grants as opposed, and we'll keep the regular update on the quarterly financial report, but you're wanting something more specific than that.
Right, the nonprofit and the business grants.
So
that
we can go for motion or direction, or do you have it? Are you okay with him just having the information? Okay, all right. But to be safe than sorry, we can't do a motion or direction.
Madam Mayor?
Okay, Mayor Pro Tem Wilkerson.
Madam Mayor, I move that we bring, I make a motion direction that we bring back for ARPA grant fund and business funding.
Update.
Update.
Okay, thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. Councilmember Boyd.
Second that.
Thank you. All in favor, yes. All opposed, no. Motion carries 7-0. Madam Secretary, whenever you're ready.
RQ 23005, 2021 road construction projects.
Thank you, Madam Secretary. Councilmember Boyd.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. So, council, this is basically requesting a review, an overview of where we are with all our road reconstruction projects that we authorized and funded back in 2021.
Can I get a motion or direction? Councilmember Adams.
Sorry.
Madam Mayor, I present a motion of direction to bring this back for discussion.
Mayor Pro Tem. Second it, just second it.
Say it.
All in favor, yes. All opposed, no. Motion of direction carries 7-0. Madam Secretary, whenever you're ready.
RQ 23006, commercial truck parking 2.
Thank you, Madam Secretary. Councilmember Boyd.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. This is a request to follow up on the discussion from spring of 2022 regarding commercial truck parking. discussing potential solutions.
Can I get a motion of direction, Mayor Pro Tem?
I move to approve.
A motion of direction.
I make a motion of direction to approve. Thank you.
Thank you for future agenda item. Mayor Pro, Councilmember Adams.
I second.
All in favor, yes. All opposed, no. Everybody, Madam Secretary, the motion of direction for RQ-23-006 passed. Madam Secretary, this is the last item on this one, whenever you're ready.
RQ 23007, Scenic City, Texas designation.
Thank you, Madam Secretary. Councilmember Boyd.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. So, Council, this is the opportunity to discuss joining Scenic Texas as a member city and commitment to further improve our public spaces and achieve a better quality of life. This is a nonprofit organization that's ran through the state that works to beautify cities and elevate standards. And Belton's a member of this, and I think it'll be beneficial for the city of Killeen. So, look forward to a discussion.
Thank you, Councilmember Boyd. Motion of direction to put RQ-23-007 on the future agenda, as a future agenda item. Councilmember Adams.
The motion already made, so I second.
Mayor, did you
No,
already make
well,
a
I move that we place this as a future agenda item.
A motion of direction to put it on the future agenda item. Mayor Pro Tem.
Second.
All in favor, yes. All opposed, no. Motion of direction carries 7-0. Items for discussion at workshop. Councilmember, you have 5 minutes to talk 2 times. Madam Secretary, whenever you're ready.
TS 23044, discuss firearms in city council chambers.
Thank you, Madam Secretary. City Attorney Clemens.
Good evening, Mayor and Council.
Good evening.
I have a presentation that has a few items and give you a little bit of background on this. So Texas law regarding handguns at the city council meeting, Texas law generally allows a license holder to carry a concealed handgun or openly carry a handgun in the shoulder or belt holster. The penal code prohibits the concealed or open carrying of a handgun in the room where a governmental entity meets if it's an open meeting subject to the Texas Open Meeting Act, and the entity provides notice that handguns are prohibited. So after state legislation changed regarding handguns in 2016, you've heard a little bit of this already, but just to give you that information, the council passed 2 resolutions regarding handguns, so that's 16-075 and 16-076, which allow concealed carry of handguns and open carry of handguns. And so, and then it came back in March 2021. Council considered but did not pass a resolution to repeal those resolutions. So what that means is that currently handguns are allowed to be carried into council chambers during council meetings by license holders. So what a repeal would mean, if the 2016 resolutions were repealed, then staff could place signs with the required verbiage near the entrances to council chambers and other meeting locations, and open or concealed carrying of handguns at meetings would no longer be allowed if those notices were, if the resolutions were repealed and if the notices were posted. So your options are to direct staff to bring back a resolution repealing those resolutions and direct staff to post notice prohibiting handguns at city council meetings, or don't direct staff to do that, and then we would maintain what is currently occurring.
Thank you, Assistant City Attorney, City Attorney Clemens. It's been a long night. Councilmember Segar.
Thank you, Mayor. My first question is, because I don't remember even having a discussion on this item or anything. I guess that's what we're trying to do, if we want to discuss this or not. Is that what we're trying to figure out?
Right. This is a discussion item. I put it on the agenda, and I was going to go first to tell you why I did it, but I was looking at a certain person down there. When I go
Well, I'm
first.
going to try this because with all due respect, I mean, I don't know if we even want to discuss it. I mean, I would make a motion that we just take this out, eliminate it, and just move on. You know,
That's your motion of direction?
Yes, to eliminate this, not even discuss it, because I don't remember bringing anything up or anything, and I just would like to make a motion of direction that this item just be removed.
Okay, can I get a second to the motion of direction to remove DS-23-044 off the agenda? That's Mayor Pro Tem, okay, got it. Okay, Councilmember Boyd. It still doesn't stop the discussion.
Madam Mayor, if you will, you want to kind of give an introduction on why you put this out there, if you would, I'll
Thank you.
let you do that.
One of the things I was considering is this. You cannot take a firearm into a church, most churches, a restaurant, a hospital, Bell County, state, and it's not against the law for us to not have the firearms within the chamber. Nolanville, I talked to their mayor. Temple, all other entities do not have that, and this is my greatest concern. We are paying our police officer to take time from their families to be here. They just don't just protect the council. They protect the citizens out there. So it's no need, if something was to happen, when a citizen may want to intervene and help a trained police officer that is trained to de-escalate any situation, or if things do get out of control, and you make a decision that you're not trained to do, innocent people can be harmed. So I don't see the need for firearms to be in the chamber anyway. There's no purpose. You can carry them in the hallway, you can be outside with your firearm, that's fine. It has zero to do with the Second Amendment because the state said we can do it. It's not like any other city hall or county or state building. So I don't want people to say, I am a licensed gun carrier. It's in my car where it belongs, not in here. I need to come to the meeting, I need to give my input, and I need to listen, and when it's over, I go home. It doesn't change the dynamics in this room that if we want to have more police officers in here, if people want to feel safer, I don't have a problem with having more. But I do believe we need, what you call those things on the door? A metal detector, and we need to allow the police officers that we train and pay well, and they also need an increase in the budget. I know I was off. Well, to do their job. It just keep down chaos. It's not about what happens on this dais or an individual person. It's not about that. It's about this is something that we need to do in order to not protect only our citizens. We need to protect our staff and let our police officers do their job. That's why I brought it. And Councilmember Boyd, the floor is still yours.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'm a decisive person, and I speak decisively. This topic for me is very simple, and not getting tangled in unreasonable Second Amendment arguments. I support the restriction of handguns in the city council chambers, not the entire building, the chambers. Quite simply, this is a government building, one which routinely hosts elected officials, city staff, our citizens, and guests. I made 3 observations on April 18, which effectively established my position on the subject, because I felt the other way. One was hearing a citizen state that I have a weapon and the chief has one too. That is a threat of violence. The second was watching citizens prepare to exit the chambers in case a shooting did occur. I witnessed fear. And the third was having a citizen ask me sincerely if all the council meetings are like this. That's a concern. This should not be an issue when we're trying to conduct city business or execute city business. This is a looming issue, and we should not continue to risk the safety of ourselves, citizens, city staff, or guests for the sake of individuals determined to attend our meeting with a firearm. Outside of the chambers, in my opinion, is okay. In the chambers, I'm in favor of not allowing that to happen anymore. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Councilmember Boyd. Councilmember Cobb. I'm sorry, Councilmember Alvarez, but you went down. That's okay. Councilmember, no? Okay. I'll go back. Councilmember Alvarez.
Thank you, Mayor. My first question is actually for probably our legal staff. In the presentation, it mentions license holders. I thought the state legislature passed constitutional open carry. Does that apply to them as well, or?
Not in council chambers when when an open meeting is going on. So only licensed carriers can, when there's no notices, only licensed carriers can bring handguns into the city council meeting.
Okay.
So there is already a ban for if you're not licensed to come into council chambers when a meeting's going on.
Gotcha. The mayor, you made a comment about, having our police officers here. And I don't know that there are more police officers here today than I normally see. But when handguns were prohibited in the council chambers, did we not have police presence here back then as well, or? I don't remember.
It was more of and I don't remember either, don't get me to telling you. But to answer that question, it may not go the way you want me to answer, but back then and compared to today with all of these mass shootings, we just heard of a council member, not one, not two, the young man CJ that stated his case about so many violent acts that happened at council meetings. What happened then is not the same as it is today. So I can't expect to say how people acted or reacted, but today in today's society, when you can go on to a covenant church school and kill innocent people that really had not anything to do with the situation. Some of the topics that we discuss as a council, sometimes they get very heated. Even when you try to keep order, you cannot control emotion. So I don't think time back then and right now, it's a different environment, different time.
Sure. I understand that. And this is one of those topics that gets pretty controversial pretty quick. I try to pull the emotions out of it and look at it as pragmatically as I can. And you mentioned gentleman's comments earlier, and all his scenarios were in gun-free zones. If somebody wants to do you harm, it's concealed for a reason. If somebody comes in, we're not patting anybody down, even if we have stickers on the door that say weapons are not allowed. If somebody wants to come in here and shoot the place up, they're going to conceal it in their clothes. They're going to walk in here and they're going to do what they want to do. I don't know. I'm on the fence, but it's one of those things to where we've had this now they've been allowed in the council chambers for several years now, I believe, and we haven't had any incident to my knowledge. So I understand erring on the side of caution, and you don't want to wait till something happens in order to do something, but in a lot of the cases that we heard earlier, a lot of the cases that you see on TV, including Uvalde, were gun-free zones where people were not allowed to have a weapon, and yet they got in with the weapon, and we see how that turned out. So I'm not advocating for somebody to jump in and try to defend, a police officer or somebody else and use their weapon if they're not trained to do so, but again, you have the argument about personal safety, and I should be able to defend myself. So it gets tricky. I have nothing else to say, but thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Alvarez, and I do respect your opinion. Councilwoman Cobb.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. It is the right time to do the right something. I'm sorry, when we see shootings and when we see the occurrences in this world, in this society, in schools, in banks, in churches, everywhere that we go, we hear that. It is the right time to do the right something and put a sign up that says no guns in the chambers.
Thank you, Councilwoman Cobb. Mayor Pro Tem.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Being someone that's been called a straight shooter, pardon the pun, the reason we're here is because of what happened a couple of weeks ago, all right? I'm not into knee-jerk reactions to anything. I don't see, where I do see where the mayor is talking about what could have happened. And I take responsibility of that. I take it alone. Because me exiting this dais, and I'm going to stay on agenda before we start there. Me exiting the dais created a situation where, yeah, if someone's carrying a pistol, they may have felt threatened, even though I didn't threaten anyone. But I don't feel that that's a cause to go to the extreme of saying no guns and metal detectors. I'm not a big Second Rights Amendment guy. I don't walk around scared in public with a pistol on my hip like I'm in the Wild West, because it doesn't cause for it. I don't personally think it calls for that. I don't think it personally calls that you wear a weapon inside the chamber. I think that that's kind of silly. But if you want to do it, I don't have a problem with you doing it. So I do think the police are here for everyone's safety, not just mine. And I'm reminded in that situation when Officer Sierra, obviously he thought that I needed to, backtrack off of what I was saying, and I did. When he put his hand on my chest, I thought about it. I said, okay, he's doing what he's supposed to do. He's de-escalating. And that's exactly what he was supposed to do, and he did what he was supposed to do, and it worked. Now, if somebody still wants to come up here and bring a weapon into the chambers, to be honest with you folks, a lot of people just do things just for bait. They carry their weapons. They talk about Second Amendment rights. They do all of this stuff just to drum up some conversation, because it's fun to fight for a lot of people. But when we actually talk about the pragmatic and the practical instance of this, I don't think you're really stopping anything. It's been said before. As soon as this meeting is over and we exit out that door, this door, what stops somebody from shooting? If we can't control them out there, what's the difference in here? So that right now, just based off of everything that's been happening over the last couple of weeks, and I do thank you for bringing this up, because it's worthy of the discussion, but I just don't, I'm not in favor of it, and I can't see an instance, and God forbid anything happened that makes me look silly up here saying this, but I can't foresee it. In a risk mitigation situation, I don't see that this is a top agenda item. We got a lot of things to do, and spending a lot of money on metal detectors and making sure people leave their weapons somewhere else, I think we have more important things to do. So with that, I wouldn't be in favor of this.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem, and I respect your opinion. Councilwoman Gonzalez.
In the it's unfortunate we even have to have this conversation, but in these United States and the heightened political tension, I do understand the concern. I do understand where the conversation is coming from. Our constituent, though, mentioned something about cost associated, and for me, process is really important. So if this were to take place, or if we were to vote to move forward in this, we're talking about metal detectors, but there are differences with the walkthroughs versus the hands held. There's differences with the process. I know there's a notice that's posted, but are you asking for licenses to verify? What does that process look like? Do we know, or is that something that can be brought back to us before a decision is made?
Yes, ma'am. This is just up for discussion, and it's predicated on if it's voted up or down. And if it's voted up, that information, we can do the research on that and bring it back to the council. Thank you, Councilwoman Gonzalez. Councilmember Adams.
Because all the talk of people's rights to speak, I didn't rise to a point of order. But my understanding of the motion was not to have the discussion now. We just did 15 minutes of the discussion.
Still there. Thank you.
So I call for the vote.
Mayor Pro Tem, council, all in favor, yes, all opposed, no. Motion carries 5-2. Now we will move on, call for the vote, okay. So all in favor, yes, all opposed, no. And repeat the motion, Councilmember Sagara.
Thank you, Mr. Adams. I think it's a mute motion now, but the motion was to not discuss it. And so I would like to, add something to my motion. It's just say that we do not bring this forward. So that's.
All in favor, yes, all opposed, no. The motion passes 4-3 with Councilwoman Cobb, Councilmember Board, and Councilmember Gonzalez in opposition. Thank you, council. That was great discussion. Whenever you're ready, Madam Secretary.
DS 23-045, discuss possible action regarding councilmember decorum at the April 18th, 2023 City Council Workshop.
Thank you, Madam Secretary. Council, I put this on the agenda. Please bear with me. I am recommending to the City Council to make a motion of direction to reprimand Mayor Pro Tem Wilkerson for violating the City Council Standards of Conduct, Principle 8, and the Governance Standards and Expectations, Section 1-80. I have also provided you with written statements from the police officers who were on duty at the time of the incident. This is my recommendation for the letter of reprimand. It's as follows. Mayor Pro Tem Wilkerson, you are being reprimanded for your behavior at the City Council workshop on April 18, 2023, in which you addressed a citizen in an uncivil manner during a City Council workshop meeting. Your actions violated the City Council Standards of Conduct, Principle 8, Civility, which read, be respectful and courteous to each other, staff, and public at all time. Constructive disagreement and debate are expected, but the effectiveness of the council is dependent upon council members who are able to peacefully disagree without personalizing issues or becoming uncivil. You also violated Section 1-80 in the governing standards and expectation, which read, council members shall preserve order and decorum, shall not interrupt or delay proceedings, and shall obey the rules of the city council. Your behavior was unbecoming of a council member, and this could have ended badly for everyone in the chamber. If you demonstrate this type of behavior in future council meetings, I will remove you from the dais and you may not return for the remainder of the meeting. And council, I am looking for a motion of direction to reprimand Mayor Pro Tem Wilkerson for his actions and behavior on April 18, 2023 council workshop. Can I get a motion of direction? Can I get a motion of direction? Madam Secretary, we can move on to the next item. There was no motion of direction from the council to reprimand Mayor Pro Tem Wilkerson.
Yeah, I was going to say, I was going to make a motion if no one else did.
Please.
I'll make a motion.
That's the right thing to do. We are leaders. Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. Thank you. All in favor, yes. All opposed, no. Motion of direction led by the Mayor Pro Tem to reprimand himself is 7-0. Madam Secretary, whenever you're ready.
DS 23047, discuss and consider creating a bond advisory committee and appointing members.
Mr. Cagle.
Yes, ma'am. I don't have the remote. If y'all just move it for me, that would be great. It's very quick. So at the March 30 special workshop, council approved a motion of direction for staff to establish a bond advisory committee. Committee's purpose will be to promote bond topics for possible November election. And next slide. And our recommendation is for a 9-member committee consisting of 8 representatives, one selected by each of you, and then if jointly select one more to give us an odd number. But would be happy to hear any other ideas or any discussion that you might have.
Thank you, Mr. Cagle. There are no questions. So, sorry, are you finished?
Oh, I'm sorry.
I apologize. I thought you was with him on that motion. Councilmember Boyd, the floor is yours, sir.
Yes, just a few questions. How often would the committee meet?
I think that would depend somewhat on the committee after an initial meeting. And it's getting input from the committee exactly what they want and a little more direction from council about exactly what you want the committee to do. There's not a whole lot of time between now and August when we would call an election, but then they would still have opportunity to work past that time as well because the election wouldn't be till November. But I could see every other week pretty easily to start with.
Okay. And how soon do we need to provide names for appointment?
I would say as soon as possible.
Okay.
I don't know that you have time to get it on for next week, but perhaps the next council meeting would be a good time. But if everybody sends them in, we can.
Sure. I'm just curious if everyone may have a name in mind at this point, or, I mean, I have a name to recommend, but.
I'll get mine in this week.
Okay.
Now, remember, our agenda goes out tomorrow, so we can go ahead, if you'd like, we can go ahead and put it on the agenda, and then you can send your names to us up until Tuesday.
That works.
Okay.
Mr. Cagle, the agenda for the regular meeting will be posted on Friday.
Oh, that's
So
right.
there's
I
a
had it
little extra
backwards.
time there.
My apologies. Yeah. Thank you.
All right, so council, you can bring back your email, Mr. Cagle, and we'll have it on the next agenda. Not this coming one, but the one after that.
Well, we can go ahead and put it on the council agenda for next week. if you would like, and you don't have, just get your names in before Tuesday. If you get them in by Friday, we'll go ahead and put them in the packet.
Thank you for that question, Councilmember Boyd, and thank you, Mr. Cagle. The last item, Madam Secretary.
TS 23046, City Manager Quarterly Review.
Oh, thank you. Pursuant to the Texas Open Meeting Law, Government Code 55.001, the mayor now calls a closed meeting of the city council on the 2nd of May, 2023 at 8:23 p.m. Under the following authority, Section 55.074, Personal Matters, the city council will conduct a city manager quarterly review. Public discussion of this matter would not be in the best interest of the city. The council now going into a closed meeting. As soon as we get one more person, we can call it a night, so y'all can get home to your lovely family. Council, it is now, council is now 9:32, and motion to adjourn. Oh, wait a minute, let me call this meeting back to order. It's 9:32, motion to adjourn.
So moved.
So moved.
That's by Councilmember Alvarez.
Yes.
And it was second by Councilmember Boyd. All in favor? Meeting adjourned. Councilmember Boyd, Alvarez made the motion.
Nay.